Blades patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than red counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pascoe, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. Would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
It was a titanic battle between India and England yesterday, and it ended with England listing like the Titanic, hull below the waterline, Stokes gasping for air, and the rest of the band bravely playing a defiant tune as they disappear from view. India stood before them like a huge iceberg, cool in the Ahmedabad heat. Rishabh Pant positively glacial in his ruthlessness. Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. I'm Gorilla Hendo, Nigel Henderson, and thank you for joining us for what could be, well, certainly for me, the final day of the series. With me this morning to discuss yesterday's events and look forward to forthcoming hours, however crucial they may turn out to be, are Dave Brooke and Nakul Pandey. Morning, guys.
Morning, Hendo.
Morning, Hendo. Well, was it the best day of Test cricket that we've seen in years? I have to say, I don't know, because I only saw about 3 balls of it. People keep telling me I've missed one of the greatest days of Test cricket. Is this true?
Well, I would like to make a case for that, because it had everything. Ebbs and flows. You know, if the late Bob Willis was here with his segments, he would give the first segment to England, the second segment, even Stevens' third segment to India. Had everything, didn't it? And the last session, when the wheels came off the wagon for England and Pant let rip, and then Washington Sundar, you know, these 2 Indian batsmen, the joy that it must have brought to millions of Indian cricket fans is enough to say to me that was one of the best days Test cricket. And I haven't seen anyone bat like Pant before in Test cricket. That's the great thing. No one's ever played an innings quite like that. I mean, the first half was conventional enough, Hendo, but the shots, I mean, they were sort of what one would call T20 shots, but they're just the innovation in which he showed his batting. He is really something special. really something special.
One of the shots I did see was the little reverse lap over the slips off Jimmy Anderson with the new ball. Knuckle, how good is this man? What is going on? We've seen him earlier in the series. He's come in and he's taken the game from England from the word go. But as David says, he was sensible for the first 50, and then he went crazy. What's going on with this chap?
Rishabh Pant, I think, almost gets slightly underestimated by his own team sometimes. I was watching Rohit Sharma sort of interviewed him at the boundary yesterday, and he was saying, you actually assessed the pitch, to which Rishabh Pant quite nicely responded, well, you told me to. Rishabh Pant, I first became aware of Rishabh Pant actually around the time that England were last in India. That's 2016-17 Ranji Trophy season. He averaged over 100 at a strike rate of over 100, or maybe he averaged 80 at a strike rate of over 100, which is pretty special for a full first-class season. And he's been, I think, miscast as a slogger or as just a hitter. He's a high-quality attacking batter. I loved the first 50. He scored far more fluently than anyone else managed on either side, batting in relatively orthodox fashion, but he has the ability to score quickly without taking too many risks. And then when he does kick into that other gear, he can. There's nowhere even a great master like James Anderson could bowl at him. There was a wonderful shot of Anderson's reaction to that reverse lap, where he did a sort of a rueful smile and a downturned grimace all in one, and a shrug of the shoulders as though to say, not even I, the great James Anderson, could have done anything about that.
People will focus on that shot, Knuckle, won't they? That's the one that will get the attention. But actually, it was the rest of the innings and some of the kind of, some of the shots, more conventional shots, but also played with that wrist, that snap, like he's sort of swatting mosquitoes away. He's got this flat batted shot that he plays right along the ground. It's got some fantastic shots. How good a batsman is he? You said. Hender, I've got some stats for you. I know you like your stats. I know Knuckle loves stats.
No, he does, but I'm not so keen. But go ahead.
Okay, how good is Rishabh Pant with the bat? Top 10 batting averages of wicketkeeper batsmen who've played more than 20 Test matches. He's right up there. He's averaging 45.2 after 20 Test matches. That puts him fourth behind Adam Gilchrist, Andy Flower, and A.B. de Villiers. That's people who've had the wicketkeeping gloves at the same time. So he's in very august company. He's above Les Ames.
Well, I didn't get to see Les Ames myself.
I agree with what Knuckle is saying. He's much better than people think he is because he's got all the shots. Look at his recent record; it's absolutely astonishing. And he's so young; could be anything, could be improving all the time. I think he's something really special.
I think it's probably fair to say that he's worked out how good he is. You sometimes see this with very talented players, and I thought this with Ben Stokes to a certain extent last year. He's now, because he's recognised how good he is and how dangerous he can be. He's so much more secure in his defence and in his strike rotation and in his method. He has absolute faith in what he's doing, and it's completely justified. He talked yesterday about just being in a zone where he's seeing the ball and reacting to it, and there's no greater feeling as a batter than being able to do that and it coming off consistently, where you're not thinking about all of these other distractions. I think India have mismanaged him to some extent in recent years. I think there's a conservatism in Indian cricket that has held him back, and to some extent, every time he gets out playing an unorthodox stroke, he will get criticised. He wasn't in the World Cup squad initially. He's only just been recalled to the limited overs squads, but it shouldn't have taken that for India to wake up to what a special player he is. But they have. If they weren't before, they are now. But Davey, you sort of alluded to it. England were brilliant for the first two sessions.
Yeah, apparently so. Ben Stokes, especially from what I understand.
Well, Ben Stokes bowling unchanged throughout the morning session, I think. I think he bowled about 15-16 on the bounce.
Wow.
The other end, Jimmy Anderson's figures at lunch. Jimmy Anderson's bowling figures at lunch: 14 overs, 10 maidens, 2 for 7.
Wow.
To give you some indication of the stranglehold that England had, and runs were very, very hard to come by. India dug in, and the question was, I think we were all thinking about this at the start of the day. How long could this three-man attack last? It was a kind of inevitability that Stokes and Anderson couldn't go on like that in 40-degree heat indefinitely. And so, I'm afraid that you have to look at, the sort of scrambled thinking of the England management that went in with this very unbalanced bowling attack.
My theory for that.
No relief really for Dominic Bess. It didn't go his way. I mean, didn't he have a pretty good appeal against Rishabh at one point?
It was pretty close, yeah. It's one of those marginal calls that can go either way. I felt really sorry for Dominic Bess towards the end of that day. Failing to that extent and losing the core of your method to that extent in public is pretty brutal. I was saying on the first morning that England had prepared for the previous crisis in a sense, that they've picked the extra batter and gone in with the that loss of a bowler, so they're going 3 bowlers plus Ben Stokes. When actually I don't think that England would have lost very much by playing, say, Stuart Broad. Evidently the plan was to play Jofra Archer, but obviously he's injured. But you've got Stuart Broad and Ollie Stone waiting, who are very more than capable. I mean, that's damning with faint praise, obviously. And it meant that Stokes had to bowl these 2 Herculean spells in the morning and afternoon sessions. Anderson was incredibly difficult to get away. I mean, the way he tied down Rohit and Pujara and then Virat Kohli was superb. I think Jack Leach has again done very well, continuing his excellent work to Cheteshwar Pujara, making him look almost an ordinary player of spin, which is quite some feat. But then you ended up with a situation where England had 4 bowlers, 2 of whom were exhausted and one of whom's confidence is shot. Yeah, I mean,
just going back to Bess, the question you asked, Hendo, about was he unlucky? No, he had that sliding doors moment where could have been given out, but he bowled so many full tosses and boundary balls, so many, which at test level it just wasn't up to the level. So one has to feel sorry for him. He clearly wasn't ready to play this match. He has effectively been thrown under the bus, because I don't think England selectors were brave enough to leave him out.
Well, do you think also,
as for the selection of 7 batsmen, Pope should have been left out. No one's really focused on that, but you want to bring Lawrence in, fine, to replace Pope, who's never looked permanent in this series. You don't go in with so few bowlers when one of them is not in form. And people that say, there's no spin bowlers in England, they've got 2 more on the tour who haven't been sent home. So any one of them would be better. If a bowler who's temporarily lost, and I heard him on the stump mic, I'm convinced I heard this, not absolutely sure on a court of law, I thought he said to Joe Root on the stump mic, it's not coming out right.
Really?
And it was one of those days. You had to feel for him. He wasn't ready to go into this match.
Well, talking about people who've been thrown under the bus, I kind of feel that Ben Stokes was thrown under the bus. I mean, he barely bowled in this series, and then they expect him to, in 40-degree heat, they expect him to bowl all morning. It's extraordinary. England seem to be making the craziest of decisions under the slightest of pressure. Anyway, the teams are out there, and it is going to be Washington Sundar and Akshar Patel taking up the attack against England. Is there any hope for England, by the way, before we start? Anyone?
Yes.
Anyone giving England hope?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Dave, any hope?
That was a slightly high-pitched voice there, Knuckle. Did you mean to say it like that?
Well, it was more to the counterpoint to the inevitable low gloom. I think there are still runs in this pitch. India are 89 ahead. They're not 189 ahead.
Yeah, but 89 is quite a lot when England can only get 81 in the second innings in the pink ball test. But we shall see. We're underway almost. Jimmy Anderson's about to bowl. Shall we jingle him up?
Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja, aja. Jimmy, 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 aja, aja.
First ball of the morning, round the wicket. He's got 2 left-handers out there. One of the left-handers leaves this alone outside the off stump. Let's jingle up the 2 left-handers.
His name for his granddad or something with like that. So it turns out that you are looking at Washington Sundar.
Name for his father's godfather, but close enough.
Yes, indeed, he was. 294 for 7 is what India begin on.
Extra, extra, extra. extra, because
Outside the off stump again, left alone by Washington Sundar, and there is no run.
I mean, Hendo, it takes two to tango, and the other part of the partnership, Leah has been in touch, a morning to you, Leah, to remind us that she said, you know, Washington Sanders' average is about 10 points better than Pants, and it takes two for a partnership, and he was fantastic yesterday, very difficult to bowl to. He would walk into this England team, Hendo.
Yeah, getting a feeling like I'm trying to think which Indian wouldn't. Here's Anderson round the wicket again to Sundar, who just leaves alone a ball doing absolutely nothing, going straight through to Ben Foakes. And once again, there is no run. Oh, we should say hello to people, shouldn't we? Of course, there are people on the Twitter sphere.
There are indeed. They're very active already, including Suman Nag, who asks the question, morning lads, is the test match going into 4th and 5th day?
Certainly not going to in a 5th day. I suppose it's possible it could go into a 4th day. Only if these two add another 200, is my guess, though. And they could well do that. In comes Anderson, shorter this time. Perhaps a little bit of movement away off the pitch and through to the keeper, and there is no run. This ball looks a bit ragged, but it's only actually, 14 overs old.
Well, I mean, Rishabh Pant did quite a lot of damage to it yesterday.
I suppose that's a good point. Yes, that is a fair point. I don't really know whether England can do anything here. I think they looked a little bit shot with the bat in the first innings, and if they are chasing, well, not chasing, they won't be chasing, but if they're trying to get past a target to make India bat again, there could be some problems. Again, outside the off stump, too wide from Anderson. At least they're not scoring, though, as it's allowed through to the keeper. More tweets.
Well, Ravi Hendo says, can we, I think he means England fans, now just admit we are being beaten by a more talented team? I think you're absolutely right, Ravi. Good morning to you. Man for man, if you put them, if you compare man for man this team, you probably get 2 or 3 maybe England players, but Stokes, Root and Anderson. But on all other positions would be filled by the Indians if you put a best of team together.
We should do that, shouldn't we? Anderson bowls, and he beats him this time. First one that he's bowled straight, then gets it to nibble away, and Washington Sundar was definitely playing at that. And it's gone past his outside edge. A maiden to start with, India 294 for 7.
I mean, based purely on this series, you might make a case for Sibley or Crawley over Shubman Gill. But it's a marginal call. I mean, certainly Root and Stokes and James Anderson would be very much in that conversation.
Interesting. Would you have Ben Foakes as keeper and Rishabh Pant batting only?
I'm not sure who you take out at that point, though.
Be very difficult, wouldn't it? Let's see who's going to open the bowling for England alongside Jimmy Anderson. Well, it's going to be a man who's going to try and make sure that it does come out right today. It's Dominic Bess.
if the pitch isn't good for pace, get this lad on his bowling's ace. But if you need someone who bats, you should just save Dom Bess for last.
Well, he's first this morning, and he's in, and he bowls well. He hits him on the pad. That's worth a shout, isn't it? Or maybe there was a little inside edge. He goes down on his knees, looks at the umpire, who smiles. I think if that's not got an inside edge, that was worth a shout.
I think there was a little inside edge. I think everyone realised that quite quickly.
But a decent ball from Bess. Let's hope it continues in that vein and he can rediscover bowling well. It was a massive inside edge. He was playing for the spin, didn't spin as much as he thought, but it didn't go between bat and pad. He's in again, too short, and was that a chance? He dived away to his right, Dominic Bess, but it was forced off the back foot with great power by Akshar Patel, and it's run away for 4.
There's not one boy for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
It wasn't that far away. It seemed to dip on the bowler as he went to try and catch it, strangely enough. This is how gifted this Indian side is. The batsmen are now making the ball dip in front of the bowler when he tries to catch it.
More dip than Akshar gets when he's bowling.
Indeed. Here is Bess again. Better ball. Forward comes Akshar, defends into the offside, and there is no run. 298 for 7. Akshay Patel moves on to 15. Washington Sunday yet to score this morning. He's still on 60. Of course, it was obvious that they would bring Dom Bess in after Jofra Archer had to drop out, as Bess is in again. Oh, gets that to turn, but from a little bit too wide of the off stump, left alone by Patel. I mean, obviously, Jofra Archer was going to bowl left arm spin, and then when he fell out, as we predicted on the eve of the match, when he fell out with his elbow injury, it had to be Dominic Bess. You couldn't bring Ellie Stone in to replace left arm spin. Bess in again, too short, but he's unable to force it any further than. Well, I was going to say any further than the infield, but actually there's a big gap in the infield. There's a man protecting the offside boundary, Crawley, I think, and they get through for 1. 299 for 7. The lead up to 94.
I mean, Stuart Broad could have bowled essentially fast leg breaks. He does bowl that leg cutter beautifully. I do wonder if the selection was. I thought that Bess was very likely to play. They wanted the extra spinner, even but it's the selection of the extra batter over the extra seamer that is the perplexing one.
Bess in again to Washington for the first time this morning. It's just pushed back to him, and that is the end of the over. 5 runs came for him. Bess now has figures of number 61 from 16, and David Brooke has more tweets. Hello?
David Brooke on mute has more tweets.
Why are you on mute, Dave?
Yeah, I don't know that question. The Light Roller says, joining you again from a sunny Melbourne. Good morning to you, Light Roller. Chore's done, with the exception of an inner tube that needs a bit of attention. That won't stop me tuning in. Hoping England show a bit more with the bat when their turn comes. Suman Nag says, Washington Sunday's dad will be glued to the telly. Fantastic innings, for cheering him on to get his maiden Test 100. Fantastic opportunity to get that maiden Test century. And Warren says about our discussion about Pant is class.
Outside the off stump, Jimmy Anderson starts a new over. Right arm round the wicket. It'd be fun if he was bowling left arm round the wicket. Axel Patel leaves it alone. Jimmy looks like he's watered his hair this morning. He's almost brill creamed up, but I don't think it's real brill cream. But there you go.
I think that's the one cosmetic contract he hasn't picked up yet.
There is a lovely floppiness to the fringe, isn't there? Anna Forsyth was positing that he may have been at the Just for Men between tests.
Could be. Now, who did I think had been at the Just for Men the other day? It'll come back to me shortly. In he comes, plays off the back foot, does Axel Patel down into the gully, and there is no run.
I prefer Grecian 2000.
Oh, you old traditionalist, you.
Mind you, I didn't work for me. It made me look like a 2,000-year-old Grecian.
Hey, boom, boom.
What, muscle-bound and oiled?
Yes. I did have a brief foray with the Just for Men in about 2011. It was only about 3 days, and then I decided to let myself go gently grey. Here comes Anderson in this misty morning sunshine outside the off stump, too wide, and left alone by Patel through the keeper. There is no run.
And going back to what you're saying about the selection, clearly was a defensive move on England's part about putting in the extra batsman. It was to try to sort of avoid losing, but when you're 2-1 down in the series, it would have been more enterprising and more realistic to play the extra bowler. I think that it's fine to give Lawrence a go. He looked good, but should have replaced Pope. I would have stood Pope down.
Possibly Bairstow, given that Pope is very much a long-term prospect.
Anderson in short, and Patel just leans forward, allows that to pass over his back and shoulder, and there is no run.
Well, as Maynard Keynes, the famous economist, said, in the long term, we're all dead.
That's very true. I always remind myself of that. If anything's too serious, and I do get upset about serious things, but we'll all be dead in 50 years. Well, perhaps not Knackle.
I would hope not.
Most of the rest of no, not you, but I suspect I will be. Outside the off stump, left alone again. England bowling a bit dry here in some respects. I'm not sure he's trying to get him out. 2.99 for 7 remains the score. Oh, GPL, I should remind people, the Gorilla Prediction League is open. Did anyone win yesterday? Does anyone know? Probably not, because none of us were on. Nobody won yesterday. Okay, do we know what's in the pot?
Well, we do, and the pot is £81, which also tells me that nobody won yesterday. The pot starts at £81. Go to gorillacricket.com/competition. You're guessing the number of runs that will be scored in today's play.
A gentle inquiry from Jimmy Anderson as it strikes Axar Patel on the pad, but it's going way down the leg side. Absolutely no problem for the umpire to rule that not out. It's another maiden from Jimmy Anderson. India 299 for 7. More tweets, more social media.
Yes, indeed. A very good morning to all of the people out there listening to and watching on Hot Mic, which of course is the app that enables you to sync our coverage with the TV coverage, including Warren, who's popped up again saying morning and night all, or morning or night all, not oil. Kyle, who says yah, and Daddy Delight, who says yay. Yay to you, Daddy Delight. Yah to you, Kyle.
Daddy Delight.
That was the most...
You're very welcome, all of you.
Fantastic handle, that really is, Daddy Delight.
Yay to you, Daddy Delight. It was the most wonderfully Tony Blackburn thing from David just then. Lovely.
Daddy Delight. Yes, a bit. What were the names of those two from the from Harry Enfield?
Smashy and Nicey.
Smashy and Nicey, yes, something like that. Anyway, Dominic Bess will continue. He will bowl his 17th over. I'm just looking at those sessions from yesterday. Absolutely true, wasn't it? Amazing contrast between the first two sessions and the final one. Thrown up, driven over the top. And has that gone all the way? I wouldn't be surprised. It has. It was right in the slot. And Sundar has picked it up. His first scoring shot of the morning is a big one of these.
Your hand and into my zone. Now it's up in the stands. It's a 6. It's beautiful and it's mine.
I think we're obliged to say Dominic Bess shouldn't mind that.
Yeah, it was just a little bit full. We've got a short extra cover coming in now. He's got no short leg. He's got a slip. He's in again, gives it air. And this is funneled through the offside, beautifully played. They put a man back at long off, but that is a fantastic placement from Washington Sundar, and it's gone all the way for 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, the use of the bottom hand there is exquisite from Washington Sundar, just opening the face to get it past the man close in. Picked the gap beautifully.
I didn't realise, but it was a full toss actually, so that gave him a little bit more opportunity to do that. But it still was a very well put away shot. 10 runs from 2 balls. In comes Bess, a bit too short, a bit too wide, cut, but this time without the requisite timing, and it's fielded at extra cover. Already India are up to 309. They started on 299 this over. 50 partnership has come up as well. It's all happening. England are being, well, not ground into the dust, they're just being swept away. In comes Bess again, looking for a bit of turn. Washington Sundar thinks there might be some there, and he leaves it alone. More or less goes straight on, taken by Folkes.
And the 6 took the lead past 100.
Yes, indeed, the lead now 104. Don't forget the GPL, as we just said, the GPL, the Gorilla Prediction League. How many runs do you think will be scored in the day? Every time you have a guess, you pay £1. Go to our website and follow the instructions. In comes Bess again. He played that round-armed delivery, which we haven't seen a lot of for a while. Washington Sundar stands up and defends it, and straight back to the bowler. There is no run.
Well, it's understandable that Dom Bess wouldn't be wanting to mix things up too much at this stage, but I think that round arm mode of bowling could be quite useful.
I think it is a good delivery. I'm surprised he hasn't tried it out a few more times. Root dives to his left at extra cover, short extra cover, and does the fielding, then looks at his elbow to suggest that he's grazed it. It's the end of the over. India 309 for 7. They lead by 104. Dave?
Yeah, lots of action on the Twitter sphere. Thanks very much for everyone who's joining us at Gorilla Cricket. Anna Forsyth says, hello all, I'm having some lovely dinner and a delicious cocktail. Things could be worse. It could be Dom Bess.
Oh.
I think he is just trying to concentrate on getting it up the other end at the moment. And then Suman Nag says, if one of you were Australians, hypothetically, what would you tell Root and England team to do from here for the rest of the Test match? That's an interesting one. We'll leave that question lying in the air for a moment. No, Hendo's going to... Well,
No, I've got no idea. I was completely clueless.
Harriet Atkinson
I have
says
a
she's so
suggestion.
nervous watching Best that she'll be needing hair dye to cover grey hair by the end of this match.
I have a suggestion.
All right,
for
well,
what-
if you've yet to go grey, well, at least some of us have already gone grey, so...
You can have some of Hendo's just for men, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Now, Anderson finds the edge, a thick edge of Axar Patel's bat, and it arrows down into the ground and then towards Gully. There is no run. It's kind of not really helpful for England if you've got Jimmy Anderson bowling maidens at one end and your spinner going for 10 at the other end.
Well, this is the other thing about the
takes the
Dom.
pressure right
The
off,
other thing about
doesn't
Dom
it?
Best is because Root wasn't able to bowl him as much as he wanted to. It put those extra overs into the legs and arms and spleens of James Anderson and Ben Stokes.
The last thing you want is extra overs in your spleen, I can tell you that. Here comes Anderson, bowls a fuller ball, but nicely tucked away straight off mid-on, but it's a good piece of fielding, I think, by Johnny Bairstow diving away to his right. They will have come through for the 1. So India moved to 310 for 7.
Incidentally, in response to our friend Suman's question, Suman from What a Player, who we've done some stuff with, and Tony and I will be doing some stuff with them at the conclusion of this Test series. This is the tactical advice that I would give to England.
Stop being shit.
Yeah. I mean, we should adapt Brett Mackay's famous saying about Michael Clarke, or what Michael Clarke should have said to his Australian dressing room all those years ago. Because England are a little bit shit at the moment, it has to be said.
Well, you're only as good as your weakest link, Hendo.
True, in comes Anderson, bowls a bouncer, and that surprised the batsman, who didn't do a particularly good job in getting out of the way of it, although he did manage to in the end. But he looked, he thought, hang on, you don't bowl balls like that. What are you doing to me? It was a good one, a good surprise tactic from Jimmy Anderson then.
But, when we criticise England and say that we're shit or whatever, you have to, distinguish between those people who've really bowled their hearts out and played their hearts out at the highest level here, like Stokes and Anderson, and those who just haven't been up to it. And there's no kind way of saying this. This is Test cricket. Starting with Best this morning, what a terrible error that is. Because, Root's trying to get him back into the game and all that. Stuff that. There's a Test match to be won or saved, and that's not going to do it, is it?
I can't remember which journalist it was who said this, but was saying that Root has to be ruthless and recognise that he is now England's second spinner.
This one turns Washington Sundar around, and it rather impinges upon his manly accoutrements. He goes down on his knees and takes a deep breath or two, and the ball runs out into the offside.
Do we have a birthday jingle for Mayank, who's celebrating his birthday today, and says, "Good morning, everyone. My birthday wish is for India to wrap this all up quickly before the end of the day, so we can have a couple of days rest from this woeful England performance."
I mean, that has caused such problems to the manly accoutrements of Washington Sundar that we're going to have a physio come on and give him a damn good rub down. In fact, he's going to have a drink. He's taking his helmet off, and any excuse for a drink after 3 overs of the day. Get through some more tweets.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting question for you both here. The more interesting question is, who would make the worst combined 11? So if you were making an 11 out of India and England, of the worst 11 on show, who would make that team? That is an interesting question. That's come from, is that from Warren, I think? Yeah. No, it's from Ant-Man. 1805. Morning, Ant-Man, excuse me. Yes, morning all. More interesting question is, how many Indians would be in the worst combined 11? Not too many.
Shubman Gill from this series, which is a little bit harsh.
Can you really say that after that sumptuous cover drive? That would be enough to get him in to my... There's an aesthetic here. Yeah. Sibley or Gill, come on.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. I mean, Shubman Gill, I actually really like Shubman Gill, and I think he should be retained. And, he was the future of Indian batting 4 innings ago. But his return to...
You were talking about long term, Knuckle. You're faith fickle. You've gone off him in 4 innings.
Anderson's back to bowl. Washington Sundar has repaired himself, or been repaired, and he's in and whips this away off his hip out to deep backward square, where I think it's Jack Leach No, it's Dominic Sibley, the man we were talking about. And they pick up another single. India move to 311 for 7.
I'm picking the 11 from performances strictly in this series. Shabaz Nadeem, I think, was very ineffective in the Test match that he played.
I think also you've got to distinguish between those who are never going to be good enough and those who will be good enough but are just having a rough tour. And I think that's true of Crawley and Pope. Lawrence, I'm not 100% decided about, although he played a pretty good innings in the first knock, but he threw it away, didn't he? And England could have done with an extra 40 or 50 runs if he could have stayed out there for a while. Anderson bowls to Akshar Patel, who easily tucks this away towards mid-wicket, will come through for a single. Johnny Bairstow does the fielding. And 3 runs off that over from Anderson. India moved to 312 for 7.
Yeah, I mean, can you really pick a combined worst 11 on the basis just of performances in this series? Because as Al has just reminded us, in that case, Kohli wouldn't make the team. You can't do it on that basis. You have to say who are the most talented 11 players on display and who are the least talented 11 players on display.
Well, the other thing that's curious about that is if you'd said to anyone that Kohli would have a really ineffective series, you'd say England must have a chance then. But no, other players have come good. We've seen Rishabh Pant, Rohit Sharma after a first test that wasn't too impressive. So there's just been strength in depth in the Indian team, there has been strength at the top for England. That's the problem as much as anything.
It's been a very bowler-dominated series by that first Test match. So the returns on all sides have not been great. I mean, Virat Kohli's played 2 very, very good innings, 2 very good 50s in this series, but there's also been a couple of low scores. Anyway, it looks like we're having a change of spin bowler, and we're going to a man who's bowled, I think, really well through this series.
Coming up, here's a face that I know. It's Jack Leach. Now coming up is Jack Leach. Oh, Jack Leach.
Yeah, Jack Leach 18 wickets now in this series, which is a pretty good return. And if you add in the 10 wickets that he got in Sri Lanka, he's had a pretty effective winter. It doesn't feel like it because England are ending on the receiving end of this particular series. Although of course they did quite well in Sri Lanka, but he's still got this innings and maybe another one if India do have to bat again. So he might end up with 20 wickets, which we'd be very happy with from Leach as a man who hasn't played any Test cricket and has undergone several periods in hospital.
Yeah, it got better and better as the series has gone on.
Which just shows you really you do need to practice. Outside the off stump, stroked beautifully by Akshar Patel up to Sibley at mid-off. He's running around to his right. They probably had an age in which to get a single at that point, but didn't take it in the end. We've got a short square leg, a leg gully and an orthodox slip for Jack Leach, who's turning the ball predominantly in to these left-handers, and down the wicket comes Akshar Patel, lofts it, and there is a man back at long on, but he's too far in from the edge of the fence, and it's gone for 4.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Brave bowling and brave batting, I think, from Leach and Akshar Patel. Leach tossed it up even though the man was halfway back. Akshar took on the man who was halfway back and got enough on it to clear him actually quite comfortably. I didn't think it was the worst idea having the man sort of hovering partway back to the boundary.
Well, the confidence is flowing through the veins of Akshar Patel at the moment. Another lovely shot, and ideally England would want to have the off spinner on, wouldn't they, against the 2 left-handers? He goes back to this one, turns it. Root just thrusts out an arm and grabs it from leg gully, and there is no run.
Incidentally, the man has now gone back onto the boundary from sort of floating halfway back at long on. I mean, you could wonder, I suppose, why Joe Root isn't bowling himself if you're going matchups.
Indeed, this is too short. He lets it hit the pad, however, as it was turning down the leg side. Decided that he didn't want to get bad on that. He was aware that Root was in that position, so good batting, good awareness as well. And Root does the fielding once more. Ball is back with Leach. He's coming in. This is the 100th over of the innings. He bowls a flat, horrible piece of filth down the leg side, but Folkes does incredibly well to just nonchalantly grab that down the leg side. The batsman was a little bit annoyed that he didn't get bat on that and give it a bit of a whack, but Folkes did supremely well to take that.
Doubly so because it kept quite low.
I think that's probably why Axar Patel missed it. Here he is again, Leach. Oh, it's flat outside the off stump and short and punished by Axar Patel. It gets what it deserves. Forced through extra cover, 4 more runs.
It was too short, but nice footwork from Utcher, not only going deep in the crease, but giving himself the room, going outside leg stump to make sure that even though the ball turned, he was able to punch it away. I thought that was one of the best. Rishabh Pant played a shot like that quite early in his innings. That I think really told you that his feet were moving really well. Lovely shot.
I have to say though, I mean, it was really, really short, and he did have time there. More tweets, David.
Well, Leah, I think Leah's got it spot on here. Not for the first time. I like this net session by Washington very much. Don't get me wrong. When does the test start? Yeah, it has seemed very easy for Washington Sundar and Axar Patel this morning. Lots of net bowling. Neil Franklin said there's worse things than death, the 100 for example. And Messi Jess says, morning all, delighted to tune in to hear Hendo contemplating our inevitable mortality. Sadly, it would seem that both England and Australia's hopes of making the World Test Match Championship are already dead.
Anderson bowls a bouncer, which again discomforts Sundar a little bit, and he just pops it up on the onside. There is no one there to catch it. In any case, do you know what I think? I think what we should do is that we should go and have our own test match against Australia while they're playing the World Championship final. Say, hang on, this should have been the World Championship final. So we'll nip over to Australia and play in that game while nobody bothers with India against New Zealand. I think that's the best thing. Draw a veil over it, I think. Distract people.
It would be very much
320 for 7. It's another bouncer. This time, well-controlled pull shot from Washington Sundar. He'll get through for a single as this goes out to deep backward square.
I know you're saying that in jest, Hendo, but you could argue that England management have prioritised the T20 World Cup over the World Test Championship. That's what this is all about. The understrength team, the fact that Owen Morgan will have a full strength team in a couple of weeks' time for white ball stuff. And this Test series has not been prioritised by England. If it was, you wouldn't have had these players all going home. At this particular period, you'd have found another time for them to rest.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to disagree with the what's behind it as another bouncer from Anderson, and this time it's Axar Patel ducking underneath it. 27 runs already this morning from 6.5 overs. We'll have a change of commentary at the end of this over. We're going to I did the rotors and I forgot to rotor myself on with Grubby. I haven't seen Grubby for bloody ages. Haven't done the program with Grubby for absolutely ages. But he's going to be on with Al and his mate. Sorry, not his mate. Grubby's mate from Melbourne, and that'll be Fourthy. To be known as Fourthy from now on. Grubby and Fourthy and Al will be on next. In comes Anderson, bowls. This one keeps a little bit lower than Patel expected, so he's turned round by it a little bit, but digs it out, and there is no run. Let's go grab a couple more tweets before I disappear.
A question for the new team to contemplate is Warren saying, can we discuss a long-term England number 3? Is it Crawley, Pope, or AN other? Well, it depends where they're playing, doesn't it? Not in India, probably for Pope, on what we've seen so far. Anna Forsyth says, I know it's sun cream, but if a cricketer went out onto the field with a poor strip on the nose,
driven at by Axar Patel and beaten. A flying shot, but no connection made, and Anderson just he gives that look of being just mildly irritated, a little bit pissed off, and you can understand why. I mean, he's toiled for now 18 years for England. 18
Exactly.
years.
He's made a living out of it, hasn't it? It's his
I mean,
trademark
it's
look.
incredible. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Leah's having a flying start to the day. Says Gill to open. Sorry, worst 11. Gill to open. Goalie to captain.
Ooh, fighting talk. Here comes Anderson. Who'd be your captain? Rahani. Another bouncer. I've never seen Anderson bowl so many bouncers. Anyway, that's the end of the over. It's the end of my spell. It's the end of Dave's spell. We'll be back very shortly. I can see Grubby coming into view. I can see that wonderful picture on the wall behind him, which I've sat there with Douglas many a day. I think I have, unless that's your bedroom. Hope it isn't. Anyway, over to Grubby, over to Al, and over to Forthy. A big gorilla welcome to Forthy.
Cheers, Hendo. Hello, everyone. And yes, it's Grubby here in the central missionary position. We welcome Al to the show. Hello, Al. How are you, sir?
Morning, Grubby. Morning, everybody. I am good for a Saturday morning.
Great to know. And making his debut on the show from Melbourne in Australia is Ian Forth. Hello, Forthy.
Good afternoon to you from Melbourne. I'm just hoping my debut is a little more Andrew Strauss than Mark Lathwell.
Well, indeed. We'll pump you for information as we go, Forthy, because everyone has to go through the metaphorical having his head flushed down the toilet, Chinese burns and money stolen on first day at school. But meantime, I'll just remind you that England are 321 for 7. India are 321 for 7. Really in control of the game, 116 runs ahead. And this partnership between Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar is hurting England. 62 it currently stands at. And Jack Leach is going to bowl his second over of the day. He went for 2 fours in his first over. A pretty inauspicious start from the Somerset man. And he's going to be bowling to Washington Sundar, who's not alone.
Just giving it a
go for it, Forth.
Just giving a little thumbs up to my technical support there. That's good. Otherwise known as teenage children. Well, they're 21 now, actually.
Ooh, marvellous. Back in his crease goes Washington Sundar to play this one defensively back to Leach.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because 321 for 7, that's a perfectly average first innings score.
You would have thought at the start of this game, certainly the 205 that England posted was way below par. I would have thought. Sundar is forward in defence to this one, playing it out to the offside, and there's no run. I still don't think that England are out of this game, though, bizarrely. He called me a massive optimist.
You're a massive optimist.
Thanks, Al.
You're a massive optimist.
Yeah, thanks, chaps. We need 2 batting heroes, I think. We'll come back to that. Nice bit of loop on this one from Leach. And Sundar, big stride forward, and he times this quite well, actually, playing it too long on, and gets himself a walked single. 322.
I suppose it's a little bit like saying a good time for a hat trick, isn't it? We need 2 heroes to knock off 150.
Are you going full Bonnie Tyler here?
we could do a rendition of that if you want, chaps. Forward it comes Akshar, the big LBW shout. I think he might have got outside the line for that one. Supposedly offering a shot as well.
Outside the line.
Nothing doing anyway, and no sense of England wanting to review that correct decision from the umpire. Both teams have 2 reviews remaining, by the way, just to give you that bit of administrative information. Jack Leach, figures of 2 for 75 in his 25th. Another nice bit of loop here onto the off stump of Akshar Patel, who tries to whip it through the onside. Can't beat the man at short mid wicket, and there is no run.
I realise as a new commentator, you don't get much time when a spinner's on, do you?
No, indeed. We will as I say, pump you for information in between overs. Defended off the back foot by Akshar into the leg side. That is that completely, yeah, it does completely over. 3-2-2 for 7. So, Forthy, perhaps you can just give us a little biog of your life in cricket and how you got interested in the game and various heroics that you've probably completed in your time.
Yeah, well, that's a fairly... that won't take too long. Yes, I was very, very promising as a youngster. You should have seen me when I was 19. But sadly, in Lightbourne in Warwickshire, just coming up to bowl when I was 19, there was a tremendous crack and subsequently discovered that I'd torn my anterior cruciate ligament. So that put a horrific stop to a terribly promising career. And they didn't really have an operation for it in those days, or no doubt I'd still be threatening the suburbs of Melbourne with my. So anyway, but suffice to say, since then, very occasional cricket, but great devotee and aficionado of watching the game, and we might go to a next over. But David Brooke was on earlier. I have a feeling was David formerly editor of The Guardian by any chance?
Well,
or was that a different David Brooke?
So we'll come back to this in a moment, but Forthy and I used to work together, and I think we might have known David in a previous life. So Washington Sundar is back in his crease to this ball from Jimmy Anderson, starting a new over, just tucking it into the leg side, and they're going to come through for a single, I think, or they're not going to come through.
The reason I bring it up is almost the last competitive game I played was our advertising agency against The Guardian. And I'm sure David Brooke bowled to me for quite a considerable time while I blocked and blocked. And I wasn't very popular because that wasn't really the sort of spirit of the game, but I didn't really want to get out.
Playing for a draw even then.
Yes, that's right. I think that was David. I think I faced him about 30 years ago.
Well,
the wonders of cricket.
That may well be the case. And David went on to Channel 4 and, as our listeners may have heard before, was instrumental in getting cricket onto the channel 20 years ago. This is defended from the crease by Aksha into the offside, and there's no run.
Oh yes, what a beautiful small world of cricket. Despite the fact that I'm in Melbourne this afternoon, you're all in London, I take it, are you?
No. If you aim for Liverpool and miss, that's where I am.
Many have, Al. Many
yes.
have.
Yes, if anyone ever says I'm from...
They're going to warn Anderson in a second for running on the pitch.
We'll come to your social media shortly as well. It's a full delivery from Anderson. It's driven at by Akshar, beaten through to Folkes. Just a hint of movement away from the bat there, through the air, and good enough to beat the batsman. Rather expansive shot there, looking to get on with it. India don't need to do that. They'll be quite happy just hanging around for a bit and frustrating England. England are the team that have to win this game. I'm quite surprised. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, chaps, that the pitch is quite so sporty, given that India only had to not lose the game. This is defended from crease once more back.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the answer is they would have got not just a severe rap of the knuckles, possibly more of a sanction for producing two very, very difficult tracks in a row at the same stadium. I think I'm right in saying.
Well, that's possibly the case, but I just would have thought they'd... I mean, I couldn't see anything other than a road being prepared, because...
oh, I see what you're saying, right.
If you make it spicy or sporty or whatever, it's not quite as it was the previous test, but then your chances of losing the game would go up, wouldn't they? Another short ball from Anderson. He's bowled quite a few of those this morning, and actually ducks underneath it. Has nothing to do with it. But anyway, this pitch I think is a pretty good one for Test cricket. It's produced some good cricket, and no doubt that the Indian bowlers made better use of it than their England counterparts.
We've only really had one pitch in the whole series that's been a huge talking point. It's only the one. The other three have been, to varying degrees, absolutely fine.
Well, as one of our colleagues put it, England won the first test on an absolute tremendous pitch, and then, This is defended from the crease onside, and there's no run. That completes the 103rd over in the innings, 323 for 7. And Al, I'll come to you for some socials.
Socials, right. Neil Franklin, don't mention the Somerset. Not Fred did once, and I think he got away with it. Anna Forsyth, Root under bowling himself. Never. The light roller, a bit worrying Stokes didn't open with Anderson. Perhaps it's tactical. I would imagine that it probably is. Mayank, having England versus Australia at the same time as the WTC final is just a rip-off of that Montserrat versus Bhutan clash in 2002, which is billed as the other final on the day of the World Cup final. I suppose if you're a fan of Bhutan, does that make you one of the Bhutan clan?
I was going to say, when you said the Bhutan clash there, I thought that sounds rather familiar.
Yeah. Leah, England to play an alternative final against Australia. What could be next? EC Brexit from the ICC, perhaps? Jeff Perkins, why is Hendo refusing to roster himself on with Grubby? I have sworn to an NDA on this. I cannot comment at all. All I say is that there's custard creams involved.
Leach is going to bowl to Washington Sunder, who is using his feet down the track and whipping it through the onside. It's fielded, I think, by Don Bess at a wide, long on position, and the upshot is a single. It's been a
Third place playoffs don't have a great history of attracting a huge amount of interest or appeal. Certainly not in football. It's hard to think of the equivalent, I suppose.
They don't tend to attract quality of game as well.
No.
Axer this time uses his feet to Leach and smashes it back over his head. I think that's gone all the way. It has indeed. It is a big one of these.
I believe in miracles. Since you came to bat, you sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles. Since you came out to bat, you sexy thing.
Have India stumbled across having 3 spinning all-rounders?
Seem to have done, don't they? That was hard and flat. What Hendo sometimes refers to as a smaximum, that one really was hit incredibly hard. Just defends this one from the crease. It's fielded at short leg, and there's no run this time. 330 for 7. They've really rocketed off to a fast start this morning, and I, like other optimistic England fans, was hoping that England would wrap up this Indian innings in quick time this morning, but it hasn't happened. A length delivery which is driven to long on once more, and they come through for another single.
England have had a lot of trouble with 7, 8 and 9 over the last few years. I remember the last Ashes down under. Actually, no, the one before that, which wasn't as one-sided as it appeared from the scoreline. And we get Australia 130 for 5 or even 6.
Stretching forward, Washington Sunder, I'm playing it through point for a single. Yeah, Forfy.
And then, Brad Haddin would get together with Cummins or whoever it might be and really take the game away. And certainly this 7, 8, 9 bears comparison with almost any in the recent past. I mean, Pants then you, Gilchrist, very much so.
Oh, he played a wonderful innings yesterday, Rishabh Pant. I think he's in my top 3 world cricketers to watch at the moment. It was a joy. Stretching forward once again is Akshar Patel and playing it off the inside half of the bat defensively to short leg. That's the end of the over. 3-3-2 for 7.
Venkatesh, Sundar is doing to England what S. Curran did to India. Murthy, Arakalati, sure, I would have Bumrah too. Was curious to see why you picked Bumrah when I was. Sorry, Neil Franklin, England versus Holland would be less boring than England versus Australia. Leah, Rob Key said on Sky that India would struggle batting last on this pitch, implying India would need to bat for a second time.
Yes, exactly.
You might, yeah. Well, that's becoming a more interesting concept. Messi just says, I think a 5-test Ashes series in Australia will suffice. Alert for England beyond the Smith-Labuschagne bubble. Cameron Green has just scored his 3rd ton in 4 innings.
Yeah, and Usman Khawaja a week or 2 ago scored a match-winning innings in the Sheffield Shield, didn't he? So some of the Australian batters are really firing at the moment. We've got a change
Ginger bowling alert,
and it's going to be this man,
Ben. Ben Stokes.
I'll tell you what's troubling me is Ben Stokes' fringe. Here he comes round the wicket and starts with a slow, loopy, full delivery. A big appeal for LBW as it hits Sunder on the pad and there's a puff of dust.
No.
The timer's on. Root doesn't look interested. I think that was probably heading down leg side. And I don't know whether Stokes deliberately bowled that, but it was a slower, full, loopy kind of Yorker type delivery. They're not going to
probably was heading down leg side. It was very full, and when it's not got much to travel.
Yeah, I think he hit it with his bat as well. I think
that would that would affect things.
I think it's just got him on the.
Yeah, no, he's hit it absolutely with the face of the bat, which I believe negates some of the issues with LBW.
Move on. Stokes round the wicket, and this time it's short and heading down the arse of Washington Sunder. Not really threatening in any way, that delivery. So a slight bit of licorice all sorts to start with from Ben Stokes' first 2 deliveries.
there is an element now. Maybe it's because it's so early in the morning, but wouldn't that have just been the icing on the cake of the last couple of test matches for us to review for LBW something that never actually hit the pad? Hasn't even hit the leg, mate. You should lose both of your reviews for that.
Yes, there was an enormous cloud of dust emerged in our defence. Well, my defence, anyway. Still, it did hit the bat full on.
It's not about our defence. You wonder what the conversation between Joe Root and Ben Stokes was. Do you think he's gone? I think it might have been inside edge there, pal. Not like.
Talking of defence, Washington Sunder has defended that previous ball back up the track. So we're halfway through this Ben Stokes over. It's been a little bit of a curate's egg of an over so far. Whatever that is. I don't know what a curate's egg actually is.
Is that like a...
bigger
than a hen's egg?
Round the
I think
wicket.
I can fill you in on that.
A leading edge, aiming it through mid-wicket, but actually squirts away through point. And they're through for a single. Yes, do tell us about a curate's egg.
Well, and I'm sure, again, I'll be corrected by the cricketing universe. I believe it traces back to when a curate was invited to the bishop's house and not wishing to give offence when he was asked about the boiled egg the bishop's wife had served up for breakfast. The answer was, good in parts. So that's the origin of the phrase curate's egg, I believe.
Was there an actual curate then? Is it one particular story?
Ah, well, now you're really probing the depths of my surface.
Yeah, Wikipedia doesn't have that information.
Just throwing up more questions. Here comes Stokes. Down the leg side, Folkes goes up for a catch. Stokes isn't interested, and neither is the umpire.
I think that's an appeal of a wicketkeeper who's trying to give moral and actual support to his bowler who continuously bowls down the leg side.
And still,
I think he's hit that.
Yeah, we're tantalisingly close, but we still haven't reached the full Stokes-Folkes-Wokes combo. Still hasn't happened. One day.
He definitely got something on it. I think it flicked his shirt.
Actually defends this one towards mid-off, and there's no run. And with a John Noakes as well. The question on everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, and apropos of nothing, Sally R56. I think India need to win to qualify for the WTC against New Zealand. That they do.
No, they don't. They just need.
They need not to lose, isn't that right? Yeah. The light roller. Good to hear another palm from Melbourne. Welcome, 40.
Oh well, welcome. Thank you very much. I feel welcomed.
The Twitter sphere, I think will love you. Leah, the other final is a very good documentary film about a game of football between the worst two rated sides in the world at the time, England and anybody else. And Inda's with us. Just replying to somebody else. Mog wants to know who's winning. Cricket. Cricket is winning.
Yes.
Mother cricket. Thank God. Jack Leach, who's been a little bit expensive this morning, was hit for two contrasting fours in the first over that he bowled, not quite hitting his length, and he's currently got figures of 2 for 84 off his 26, so not quite offering the control that Captain Root would want, particularly when your other spinner is struggling. Innie is in now, the left armour, full delivery, and an attempted sort of slog sweep from Sundar. Can't beat the man at mid-wicket, and there's no run.
When you see the degree to which the spinners are struggling, associate it more with the struggles of wrist spinners who bowl full tosses and so on when they first come into international cricket and get nervous. It's not traditionally been the problem with finger spinners, or am I imagining this?
Yeah, I suppose it's more common among wrist spinners. A very tricky art, even at the top of people's games. But Bess is obviously going through a difficult period, not helped, I might add, by some odd selection policies, not being picked in the last game and whatever, and then being thrust into the limelight now. But there we are, he's there to do a job and he's not really doing it at the moment, it has to be said. This is driven and it goes through Jack Leach, a straight 4 runs.
And I suppose just on the subject of wrist spinners, you would associate...
Give it to me 3 times, yeah. Give it to me 4 times.
You were saying 40?
Sorry, rookie error. Speaking over the jingle. I'll
Don't
get
worry.
it right soon.
You're gonna see far more experienced errors from Groggy and I. So.
No, I'm just talking about wrist spinners. Here comes Leach.
Forward comes Sunder in defence back up the track if there's no run. Yes.
Yes, it's a slight surprise that India, with this terrific team they've got, aren't really fielding a wrist spinner. You'd think India would be the home of the great wrist spinner. In fact, there aren't really any great wrist spinners in international cricket now who are regularly getting a gig.
Kuldeep played earlier in this series.
Kuldeep played, yes.
I'm a big fan of his. Sunder back in the crease and playing it defensively into the offside. There's no run. Yeah, and then he was drafted in for I think the second test and then summarily dropped for the third. But he's a man who I'd be finding room for in my team. I love watching him bowl. I believe his average is only about 23, remarkably, in Test cricket. So we'd probably find room for him. I would, yeah. Forward comes Sunder once more, playing it defensively. There's no run.
But if you don't want him, we'll have him.
England.
Yeah,
yes,
we'll
exactly.
have him. Just looking around. Can you have him, please?
England have proposed a trade.
We have a slip in place, a short leg in place, and those are the fielders near the bat. Sunder using his feet and just steering it very controlled fashion to long on where best is the fielding. Once again, he comes through for a single.
Venkatesh, is it time for Test teams to groom spinning all-rounders rather than seam up ones and play a proper pacer instead?
Not sure I'm comfortable with the word groom, but carry on.
Yeah, neither am I, really, to be perfectly honest. Salih 56, India must be thankful that Jadeja is injured, as it's allowed them to stumble across 3 spinning all-rounders. Yeah, I appreciate that Jadeja's probably the best of all of them.
We hardly mentioned him. I mean,
but you know, act like you're going to miss him. You know,
we have a missive from the boardroom. Asking us to talk about the GPL, the Guerrilla Prediction League, where you can go onto our website, follow the instructions, and make your prediction for the number of runs you think will be scored in today's play. You pay £1 or thereabouts.
Grubby, what do I win if I predict correctly?
Well, Al, what I can tell you is that the pot currently stands at 81 of your English pounds. So that would.
Oh my! Think of how many Smarties you could buy for 81 English pounds.
In other times, that would make you very popular in the pub this evening. So get to GuerrillaCricket.com, go to the Guerrilla Prediction League, make a prediction, and see if you can scoop that pot. Full delivery from Stokes, starting a new over. A bit of an inside edge. The ball fetches up down at long leg, and they are going to come through for 2 runs. The score has moved on to 340 for 7. I think my friend and I have lost another bet because we thought that India would be bowled out for under 339, so that's gone up the Swanee. Up the Graham, and England carry on their merry way. India carry on their merry way.
Just going back to Indian spinners for a while, I'm sort of old enough to remember when the 8, 9, 10, 11 for India was Bedi, Prasada, Venkat and Chandrasekhar. None of those are usually associated with the phrase spinning all-rounders.
No, indeed. This latest delivery was pushed into the offside by Sunder, and there is no run. No, times have changed since then. Our friend and colleague Gary Naylor is a big proponent of a number 8, as am I. We're talking about Jadeja recently. He's probably up there among the best in the world. We're talking about Test number 8s. But back then, for number 11s really, this is a short delivery from Stokes. It follows Sunder, who does quite well to sway out of the way and ends up on his arse. Always nice to see.
I seem to remember a match between India and West Indies, was it? When Gavaskar declared, I think, 8 down on the basis that there wasn't any point exposing the last 2 spinners to the West Indian attack.
More bunnies than in Watership Down.
Yes, that's right. They were. Yes, that's right.
Stokes halfway through this over. He's coming round the wicket to Washington Sunder. This is a less threatening short delivery.
Well, none of it's.
He's allowed to
Are we actually trying to get them out? Asking for a friend.
Not consistently, possibly, Al, and certainly not on that occasion.
But Anderson seemed to bowl a very un-Anderson spell, and
it's not really his bag, is it? Being asked to bowl those the enforcer kind of role. Stokes would be more your man for that in this particular team.
I think it's got the feeling of a last day of term a bit, hasn't it? It's
Bring in Kaplunk.
bring in Plunk, Mousetraps, Abutio, Monopoly, have a bit of fun.
The posh kid
not
with
really.
a computer game.
A short delivery, which Sunder pulls into the onside, and they're going to get 2 fairly comfortable runs there. Nice to see crowds back at the cricket. Some of them wearing masks, some of them not. Pretty much negates anyone wearing a mask, if you ask me. But there we are.
Yeah. We were very thorough in our first Melbourne lockdown, and we had one of the most stringent in the world. But even we, in the last 5-day lockdown, there wasn't a great deal of compliance with masks.
Was it because it was just 5 days? It's like,
Yeah, I think that was it also.
And this is defended by Sunder back up to Stokes' no run.
And quite a lot to do with the fact that there was fairly well substantiated evidence that no one had caught COVID outdoors. So what was the point, really? But there we are.
Right. Des, great debut 40. Mark, must say I'm surprised that there are more than a couple of cricket fans in Melbourne. Notoriously disinterested in sport. Victorian. Oh, he's a great Victorian. Oh, he's Australian hero. Like roller. Oh, and also adds and some gorilla dad jokes from the Bish. Venkatash, nutmeg by Sundar Hunk. Not rediscovering these guys are top order batsmen in their domestic team. Chewy Andrew, what a great name that is. That's remarkable. Will India need a second innings? Not at this rate. It was great to see England go to India, unlike my team who refused to go to South Africa.
We have another change of bowling there in Ahmedabad, and it's going to be this man coming on for England.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pick, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that. Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
I always wonder about that jingle, whether it really sounds like Joe Root, and whether he once said Joe Root, actually, or not. I don't know.
We have a jingle for Washington Sundar.
We have
and
jingles
could it
for
be,
everyone, yes.
Well, yes, and is it Buffalo Soldier to the tune of?
Oh, no, but that would be good, wouldn't it? I would like to hear that.
I think someone mentioned that on the Guardian OBO yesterday. I thought it was an excellent call.
Very nice. We're going to have a change in the com box after this over, but it's going to be bowled by Joe Root, coming round the wicket and round-armed. Slow turn. Actually, I think it's about playing a shot, but doesn't. Back in his crease, and that's taken by Ben Folkes, who made a tremendous take earlier in the day of a ball down the leg side and keeping low. Just made it look so easy, didn't he? And he's been an immediate upgrade behind the sticks for England, I think. A full delivery from Root. This one is fielded as Axar prods it towards mid-off. It was the diving Dan Lawrence who did the fielding there, and there's no run.
With Ben Folkes, it rather feels as you don't realise how good things can be until you actually see it. We've slightly forgotten how good wicket-keeping can be.
Well, he's absolutely tremendous. This is played into the onside, and they come through for a quick single. It's fielded it mid-on there. One more to the total, 3-4-3 for 7. Yeah, no greater authority than Jack Russell, and who am I to argue with him? Thinks that Folkes is the best wicketkeeper in the world, standing up to slow bowlers. So
I said to the Bear yesterday, at some point it feels like he's reaching in front of the batsman and picking the ball before. It just looks.
Which you're not allowed to do, but
yeah, I know, but that's the way it feels. It's just that easy.
A full delivery, which is played to short cover by Washington. No
It's
run.
very graceful, isn't it? He's turned it into an aesthetic form, his wicket keeping, like you do with the very best, like Notty used to do the same.
Or Jack Russell himself.
Yes.
Terrible piece of filth, dragged down by Joe Root and wide of the off stump, and Washington Sunder can just about reach it, playing it towards the point boundary, and they come through for another single.
It's worthwhile saying that it was the knock about Rishabh Pant that his wicket keeping might not be the best, but he's been dynamite at doing that behind the stumps as well.
Yeah. Actually, funnily enough, my all-time here we go.
This is driven at by Axer, fielded in that short mid-off position. And that is the end of it. 344 for 7. We're going to have a change in the commentary box. I think I'm going to be handing over to Dave and Hendo, and I think Al, you're staying on And Forthy, you and I are going to retreat for half an hour, and we'll see you after that.
Nice debut, Forthy.
Yep. Oh, thanks very much. Enjoyed it tremendously. See you in half an hour.
See you in a bit.
Thank you very much indeed, Grubby, and thank you to Forthy, who's made a very promising debut there from all the way from Melbourne. Yeah, I've just had a look in the Guardian scorebook, Forthy. I4th, 1992, Guardian versus BMP. I4th, LBW Boldbrook, 18.
Did you say versus BMP?
Yes, I did.
That's a different. It's a different. So you did bowl against him.
Yep.
Hey?
Yep. BMP, not British Nuclear Power. Bose Massamy Pollitt, one of our top advertising agencies. Yeah, I bowled unchanged for about 18 overs. I must have been captain. The only explanation.
It makes you the anti-Joe Root then in that case.
Of course, 1992 Hendo would have been one of your probably top seasons with the bat.
Oh God, no! I'd pretty much retired by then.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I was an '80s boy. That was my era, really, mid to late '80s.
Now I am trying to get my video on, but I'm having a few problems at the moment. But at least the sound is there. Would you like to talk amongst yourself while I make some technical adjustments?
You are missing. There is just advertisements. So
I've been told the video is on. I've just got a very small viewing window on my screen rather than full screen, which is a slight boring technical issue which I need to resolve.
It sounds like it might be one of your viewing options. So.
Yeah.
Well, I can get through some tweets. Where did you get up to on the tweets, by the way?
The last tweet I read out was by Chewy Andrew.
By who, sorry?
Chewy Andrew.
Oh dear, how long ago was that?
That might be 6 minutes ago.
Oh right, okay. I thought we were further back than that. So that's good news, really.
Messi Jazz is your first one.
Ah, right. Well, and indeed, it's. I read this a little bit earlier, and I thought it was funny at the time. This really feels like England have decided it's not worth expending any more energy than absolutely necessary, seeing as they are already royally fucked. It does appear like that, doesn't it? Absolutely. Shirsho Dasgupta says, do we have a Joe Root jingle to the tune of Jolene yet? And I said, no. I sent him a message saying, no, we've already got one for Moeen for the Jolene jingle. Leah says, it's Joss Butler in that Root jingle, actually. And Anna Forsyth repeats that. It was from a Sky Sports teammates interview of him answering who was late a lot. It was Joe Root, actually. There you go. India are racing along and putting the final nails in England's coffin. We're back in a minute after they've had a drink. The light roller said it doesn't help the national side doesn't pick Victorians. We're all probably Poms too. Poms in Victoria, Poms in Melbourne. What's going on?
Makes you think that we've managed to get ourselves around the world. It's good considering that we don't travel well in sport. We travel well in other areas.
Yeah. We normally have to be. We normally have to go and slaughter someone at the end of it. I think that's probably it. And not in a cricketing sense.
We shot him and nicked his country. In the words of Blackadder.
Yeah, that's true. 344 for 7. India are 139 runs ahead. Dave, are you back yet?
Still struggling with the vision, so if you wouldn't mind taking over for the moment.
Well, let's, Al, have you got it? Have you got that? You've got it.
I've got vision.
You've got vision.
Yeah, there is a consultation between Jimmy Anderson and Ben Stokes, and Dan Lawrence is like a new kid who's standing next to two sixth formers trying to act cool. Ben Stokes has the ball in hand. I am tap dancing as much as I can until I get some sort of Team America secret signal from David about the fact
keep
that
going. Alec, you wouldn't just describe the action until I will. I'll later. Yeah.
As soon as there is action, sir, I will describe it. Washington Sundar will take strike. He is 86 not out. He's been not quite as fluent as Akshar Patel, who is 34 from 76, and has been quite expansive this morning, Hando.
Well, yeah, I think they both played pretty well. England have turned them round once or twice, but they've been quite attacking, haven't they?
Certainly have. 50 runs added this morning as Stoke runs in around the wicket, and that is just on Sundar's off stump, back of a length. And Sundar steps back in his crease, pushes a firm push off the back foot, and will be able to take a single as the ball dribbles to mid-on. And that will bring Patel onto strike. India 3-4-5 for 7 with this partnership. An incredibly valuable 86 off 144, and I think we've got to be mindful, haven't we, Hendo, that but quite rightly after Pant took all the headlines, decided to shorten back of a length and squares Akshar Patel up, and it takes the outside edge, but goes harmlessly down to third man, and there'll be another single. That this partnership has done just as much, if not more, to take the game away from England.
Well, absolutely. I mean, England needs to get early wickets. I don't think necessarily in terms of the total so much as the fact that they're just another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in the field is just going to wear them down, isn't it?
So was it something like 145 for 6 has become 346 for 7, so it's effectively 200 for 1 in the midst of the innings.
Absolutely.
A remarkable turnaround, as we said about the first 2 sessions yesterday being England's. As Stokes is short again, now is pulled away by Sundar quite flamboyantly. There is a deep square leg there, so a slightly risky shot if it had been a bit more top edged, but Sundar will walk through for another single, and he will move towards the 90s. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like there's. It seems like we've been bowling in areas where they've been relatively comfortable.
Yeah, in fact, they've looked most trouble when they've put the short ball in, especially Anderson, because you don't really expect it from him so much.
David?
Thanks very much, Al Stokes bowls and Akshar ducks underneath that. Yeah, just a few technical problems. I did a technical adjustment, switching it off and putting it back on again, and that seemed to work.
Do you try and coerce the computer before you hit it?
Just the off and on switch out. Just simple, No.
I
find it works 9 times out of 10 any situation. Turn it off, turn it back on. I'm hoping to be able to guide Washington Sundar through to his maiden Test century here. He's on 88, but Akshar's on strike at the moment, and he faces the bowling of Stokes. No bouncer, and Akshar ducks underneath it. 347 for 7. I mean, just a word about Washington Sundar. I mean, I watched him yesterday. I thought it was he played his hand in that partnership with Pant. I mean, he batted really well. And what an exciting prospect, because he's only got one first-class century to his name, hasn't he? And the temperament of the guy and the way that he's sort of conducted himself in this Test match, been fantastic. Here's Stokes though to Akshar, who's facing this one, and he goes up, covers up, plays that down. I mean, he was in the under-19 team with Pant, wasn't he? They were teammates in the under-19 team, and that partnership between them, there was something quite symbolic about that, the new India and all that. Anyway, 347 for 7, if you want to pick up on that or anything else, Hendo. What a privilege it is to be here with you, Hendo. You've brightened up my lockdown, listening to you all those mornings and all the way through this series. So thanks very much, Hendo, for all that.
I'm floods of tears. What can I say? Paul Howarth, who's he? Oh, Grubby78 says, if I were a conspiracist, and this is to do with the fact that I've not rotated myself on with him, despite the fact that we haven't commentated or been on together for absolutely ages. I was just trying to fit so many people in today. I had to get you in with your mate Forthy. I had to try and make sure that everyone. There were about 3 people coming on for the second session and the third session, so it's all just it's all been a logistical nightmare. We asked what's England's plan from here. Sanjay Subramanian says try and bring down the already slow over 8 even more. Yes, that's probably a good idea. Merv84 has given us a graph, spin effect by innings. I think Knackle needs to look at that and tell me what it means, because I can't look at graphs and understand them. That's beyond my remit.
Joe Root, and that's played away by Sundar beautifully. As a man down a deep extra cover boundary, so he's going to get a run for it. But it was a nice flat batted, wristy shot from Sundar, and one worth a run in the end.
David, he does very well because Sundar seems like a very tall man, and he does very well to get low.
Certainly does. Root bowls that's wide of the crease. Akshar has a really good swipe at that. It's an air shot. He rehearses Slightly more conventional version of the shot that he just played, but the actual shot missed by quite a long way. Spun away from Root, so Root getting a bit of turn. Just disappointing that Joe Root hasn't been able to follow up his success in the last test. 15 overs, no wicket for 49 in this one, and he's still looking for his first wicket as Axar plays that to mid-on, and there's no run. Newbury races today. Looking forward to getting Grubby's opinion on that. Very shrewd punter is Grubby, very well connected. Root bowls outside the off stump, and Axar leaves that one alone. He's on 35. He's played his hand. There's something of the Ravi Shastri, would you say, about Axar's Hendo?
That's a good call. A very good call. Yes, absolutely.
Do you remember seeing Ravi in his pomp with his
A little bit,
arm?
yeah.
That's short, and it's flayed away by Axar down to deep mid wicket. They're going to trot through for a single. Ravi Shastri, of course, the only man to bat in all 11 positions for India, and as he always tells you, because he was on the Channel 4 commentary teams, I met him and sort of socialised with him quite a lot, and he loves his anecdotes about his own innings, especially his batting. He's one of those people that never lets you forget. Root bowls, and that's outside the off stump, and Root very nearly got a wicket there because it was a late jab, wasn't it, from
he's made his mind up a bit too late there, hasn't he?
Yeah,
with that one.
Who was that at the strikers?
That was Washington.
In Washington, yeah. So maybe looking for a little dab shot. It wasn't a great choice shot selection there, and Root very nearly had him caught behind. And Rory Burns is on the field. We're going to wait and see who is off the field. I wonder if it's one of England's 3 frontline bowlers.
That'd be fun. Leah says bringing up Jack Russell to slag off punts keeping is quite funny, as the two share the record for the most dismissals in a test by a wicketkeeper.
We weren't doing that. We weren't bringing up Jack Russell to slag off Pant. We were actually saying that Pant's been wicket keeping really quite well. We were just saying that Jack Russell thinks that Folkes is the best in the world behind the stumps.
Okay, Perko says, you'd think that people other than Hendo were also out to get you. That's to Grubby, who's worried that there's a conspiracy to keep us apart. Mog says, Nigel Henderson, a modern-day saint? Why would that be? The Hendo saints are everywhere amongst you. Pay your homage via Patreon. Oh, that'd be nice. If you want to support the programme, go to patreon.com/Guerrilla Cricket and pledge a monthly donation to Guerrilla Cricket, and we'll be able to keep going forever and ever. The more of you that do it, the longer we'll keep going.
Here's Stokes bowling round the wicket. Axar, again, not having anything to do with that. He ducks underneath it. Yeah, small price to pay if you donate to Patreon. You get Hendo rather than Graham Swan. Hendo saves you from Graham Swan. Hendo rather than KP. And my own particular favourite, Hendo rather than Gareth Batty, who is virtually unlistenable to.
Oh, Batty! I commentated with him for TalkSport. I thought he was a lovely man.
He is.
He's a lovely man. You just didn't like his commentating.
Exactly.
Oh, I thought he was a very enthusiastic commentator.
Stokes bowls round the wicket, and Axar lets that one go. Yeah, it's true. It was just his. He was. They had a discussion on a rival channel during the lunch break yesterday on the 100 competition. Oh. And Gareth Batty was so ill-informed. What's that phrase? Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And he was going through the usual ECB line of no one watches television anymore and all this sort of stuff. And he's been to one presentation on the subject, and suddenly he's the world's expert. And he was just sounding off about that, and I just thought, oh.
That sounds like the basis upon which most military intelligence is done. You go on a 5-day course, you're an expert.
Yeah, it was a security course. Stokes bowls round the wicket, and that's this time Axar does respond. He sort of pulls it round to deep square leg for a single. That one did get up as high, so he was able just to sort of ease it round to deep square leg. And Stokes walking a little gingerly. Excuse the pun. Didn't intend to say that.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Of all of his stats, the one I found the most surprising is that he's 29 years old. I think he's got the shoulder of a 45-year-old, but the rest of him is 29. But yeah, it kind of reminds me. He plays cricket the way that Rafa Nadal plays tennis. He puts so much into it that you get the feeling that he's aging in dock years in terms of his body.
Here he is again, a wholehearted cricketer. That's played nicely by Sundar. Oh, it doesn't quite make a connection as I thought, but he rolled his hands on it.
I think maybe it might have hit Ollie Pope at short square leg. I think.
Pope has made a contribution there by making a couple of runs. No, I didn't mean for the first time. I know what you're thinking.
I
know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking.
Well, no, you actually.
Oh, yeah.
He had saved a couple of runs there, Pope, so you could add those on to his 20-something tally. He's the Mark Ramprakash of this series.
Hang on, Dave.
I think it's hit the undercarriage there of Ollie Pope.
It did, but you forget, of course, his contribution. I think it was in the first test. I'll come back to that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Here's Stokes round the wicket. Axar is defensive on the back foot. Hendo.
Yeah, wasn't it Pujara tried to pull, I forget whether it was Bess or whether it was Leach, and it hit Pope on the shoulder and lobbed up to mid-wicket, don't you remember? Do you recall that? I'm sure that happened in this series, didn't it?
It has.
So we should add those runs, that onto his tally as well.
I mean, who knows? Pujara could have got a double 100, so he may have saved, I don't
180.
know. 180. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
That puts him well in the credit bank. I'd have still left him out of this side to accommodate the extra bowler.
I do like the idea that your immediate motion wasn't that Pujara might have scored 50, but immediately to double 100.
Of course.
Stokes, and that's short again, so he's really trying to hit the middle of the wicket here, and Axar just lets that one go. End of the over. He's on 37. Sundar has reached 90. Let's cheer him on to his maiden test century here. India 351 for 7. They lead by 146. Hendo.
Yeah, Jonah says, can you please talk me through Punt's reverse sweep to Anderson? Was he taking the piss, or does he have balls of steel? It's almost beer o'clock here in Australia.
Balls of steel.
It was a clever flap, really, wasn't it? A little paddle over the top of the slips. That's the way I saw it. But it's an extraordinary shot to play in a test match when you've got a load of slip. If you've seen it in one day, you'd have said, okay, fair enough. But in a test match, and Jimmy's just come on with a new ball. Impudent, I think is the word. Neil Franklin says, donate to Patreon or they'll play the hour tune begging jingle. Yeah, we should line that up. I don't know if Knuckle can get that lined up. If you're not going to give to Patreon, we will inflict that upon you. And it's got me bemoaning the fact that we've got no money.
How do you donate?
For just £2 a month.
Well, $2.
How do you do it?
You go to Patreon, patreon.com/Gorilla Cricket.
And it's route new over, and that's beautifully driven by Sundar. There's a man down there at deep extra cover, but there's nothing wrong with that shot. Nice classical shot from Sundar. He goes on to 91.
Let me try and get some one or two tweets in because we're getting a bit behind. Scarif Batty's kind of like Mark Waugh as a commentator, says Mog. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about the sum of it. Short and played off the back foot by Axar, no run.
Well, it is extraordinary. Out of the two of the people they could have had, me or Gareth Batty, after our performance together in 2017, that they should have chosen the Surrey in England cricketer rather than yours truly. I'm deeply despondent.
Another reason for Archie.
Yeah, root bowls, and there's a big drive essayed by Axar. Doesn't make any contact, or does it come off a top edge? Not quite sure. There, it's gone behind the wicketkeeper for 2. And waits for the umpire to signal it's byes, 2 byes. So that missed everyone. It was it certainly took off, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, absolutely. Yeah. Probably out of the footholes there. It was a very full. Let's have a look at it again. Yeah, it's really turned, and it's taken a bit out of the surface, which will be a worry for England's left-handers. But I do think that it's not actually turning that much from the straight. You do seem to have to push it wider to get it to turn a lot of the time.
That's fired in by Root, but Axar is equal to it and plays that right down to long off. A bit of a chase here for Leach. They take 2 runs. Nicely played by Axar, who goes on to 39 now, and Sundar 91. 3, 5, 6 for 7.
I thought he got a bit done in the flight.
Yeah, I think
Root gives much flight. He didn't quite get to the pitch of the ball. Was able to go through with it because there's a big open expanse there.
Here's Root again, and he goes for another big shot. This time, Root does a deflection, but it doesn't stop it from going down to log off. Just for a single, though. Root took the sting out of that one, saved a certain boundary. It was really firmly struck back to him. So Axar is making his intentions clear. He moves on to 40, and the score, and the 357 for 7.
I think it's an indication just how your form is, isn't it, really? There's a couple of England batsmen that goes straight down the throat of someone running 30 yards to their right, you know.
Absolutely, I think that's true. Yes.
Here's Ruta going around the wicket, and at this time solidly by Sundar, who's obviously playing the more conventionally of the two, because he's got his maiden Test century in his sight. He's on 91. The end of that over, 112 overs, 357 for 7.
Anna Forsyth says, I know we shouldn't mention the other commentary, but I've listened to it on the highlights, and Swan is doing a strange posh voice. It's most disconcerting. That is very, very strange. He does like to mimic, doesn't he, I believe. I think that was the problem with our mate Dan and Swanee together on Test Match Special, is that there wasn't room for two of them to do accents. Leah says, to quote Megadeth's Hangar 18, the military intelligence, 2 words combined that can't make sense.
No, I don't know.
Cricketing Life says, Anindya Dart No Chandra, heartbroken. Oh, they're talking to Anindo, who overnight he put out his best ever Indian team. That's created a bit of discussion. Anna Forsyth says, was he hit Ollie Pope in the Graham Gooch? And BKK says he saved a run with his rear guard action. Where are you coming from?
David, I think you might have a couple of bits of individual history to be able to guide people onto. I don't think that Akshar Patel has made a Test 50.
Here's Stokes. Axar ducks underneath that one. Yeah, he seems less concerned about that than Sundar, doesn't he? He's really going for it, and playing with a great deal of freedom. Now, I'd like to talk to you both about the England Brains Trust, the England management.
Is there such a thing? Is there such a thing?
Well, that's my question. You know, there seems to be, the Ashley Giles regime. I would like to put that under the microscope. Since he took over as director of cricket, it's been all downhill. Discuss appointments of Jeet and Patel and the performance of these spinners. John Lewis, bowling coach, better than Curtly Ambrose. Here's Stokes, bowls, and that's swung away by Patel and by Axar, going down to deep square leg, and they just jog through for a single.
I actually think.
Hello?
I think Leach has done enough in order that you might be able to consider what's happened to Bess and Leach to be a wash. I think I mean, it's interesting. The coaching seems to be a worldwide conveyor belt where people come in and out and go to various squads.
Well, I think it's good enough. Stokes, and outside the off stump, Sundar lets that one go. I mean, England gone through the motions. Those people tuning in, waking up early, hoping that England would get through, get this Indian tail mopped up. Well, they're certainly not a tail, are they? They're a really good 8 and 9, as we've been saying earlier, without singing Gary's song. But England's attitude, I think we've hinted at it, is poor. They're halfway back on the plane. You wouldn't hold out much hope for them. And the whole attitude to the sort of this series has been disappointing, hasn't it? Have they come here to win? And doesn't seem to be that intent. And I wonder whether that would have happened under previous regimes. Stokes bowls, and that's paddled away by Sundar, and it's there's misfilled there. It should have been stopped, but it's a bit of heroics on the boundary to tidy it up by Dom Bess, who remains enthusiastic as ever in the field. But it went through deep mid-wicket for the 100 partnership between these two. Axar and Sundar, 100 partnership for the 8th wicket.
The bowling attack has been survived and sometimes even plundered. The partnership has persisted and now has reached 100.
You might have to get a 4 jingle out here in a sec.
I don't know. I thought he's done brilliantly there.
I thought originally he's done well, but when you just start to look at it frame by frame, I'm wondering when his side hits the boundary sponge. No, I think he's done. First glance it was like brilliant bit of work.
Well, it was because he slid so long with the ball in his hand, and then realised he was going to hit the fence and needed to get rid of it. I think he's just about done that, to be honest.
Yeah, the more you look at it, the less you're convinced.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't convinced, but I mean, it was a great effort. I thought maybe he got rid of it a little bit too late. But from what
it's pretty crucial. I think in the context of this Test series, I think it's pretty crucial. It depends on whether India lead by 156 or 158.
I'm actually thinking about Dom Bess as an individual.
It's been given us 2 runs.
Been given us 2 runs. I was actually thinking about Don Best and the effort that he's putting in. You know.
Axar on 41, Sundar 94, his Stokes again, bowling to Axar, who covers up, plays that one, calls for a quick single, and the same fielder, number 9, coming number 9, that's Jimmy Anderson, who made the misfield at mid-wicket and was slow to move in there. Shouldn't have been a single to Jimmy Anderson there, Al.
Are you in trouble, number 6? Yeah, yeah. They've got us rocking and rolling. I mean, I'm more than rocking and rolling. But it's there's one side that's switched on and there's one side that's switched off.
Yeah, no, that's disappointing because it's a test match and you want to see 2 teams competing at the highest level. And England disappointed. You know, here's Stokes bowls. You can't accuse Stokes of being anything less than completely wholehearted. That's tucked away by Sundar around the corner. He's going to go to 95. I mean, you know, in this match, I think in particular, it's been a real test of character. We've seen certain individuals, you know, like Stokes, you know, and Henderson putting up their hand, but it's been some, you know, pretty ordinary performances. And Jack Leach, I'd say, has done well. 363 for 7. I know, Hendo, you're desperate to go through some more tweets because people know you're on social media. When Hendo's on social media, the tweets come in left, right, and centre.
Absolutely flooding. They like that lava in that coming out of that volcanic eruption we were promised by Kit the other night. It's still not emerged. If I double my Patreon amount, will you give me right of veto on who commentates? Says Mog.
Mog, just give me the rest of the day off. It's fine.
I'm not sure doubling would be enough. I think you might have to triple or quadruple for that. Harry Atkinson says, I've just seen Root smile. I think England need to at least try and look like they're playing the game.
Yeah,
it's not good, is it, at the moment? They really. But then, you know, we talked about this. The Bear especially has talked about this about how when things really start to go against you on a longish tour, and a 4-test tour is quite a long one by today's standards. You know, a team. And they lose a couple of games, and then they've just gone in the head, and they're not really out there in some sense. Brian Barr says, "What is thag supposed to rhyme with? What is thag? I don't know. No idea." Before this innings, Axar's highest score was 7, and his average was 4. They are now 41 not out and 17.61 respectively. Yeah, well, I mean, he's only been playing 3 Test matches, Axar Patel, hasn't he? Goodness me, what would have happened if he played the first?
First ball from Root, and Sundar tries to play that forward defensively. It goes through and goes through to folks played miss there. So will I get Sundar through to his century? My last over of commentary here, Sundar's on 95, Root bowls. It's a full bunger. Oh, but he's only put it away for a single down to long on. What a disappointment. I thought he could have put that one away for the maximum or maximum, or whatever you call it, Hendo, these days, with all after your IPL stint.
Yeah, which we'll be having another one of fairly soon, actually.
Well, I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice. No, it's one of the highlights of the year for me of lockdown was your increasing enthusiasm for the IPL.
Yeah, I did have much more enthusiasm for this year. The only thing I would say is that I'm not sure I can do 2 IPLs in the space of 5 months. I think that might be testing me a little bit too much.
Yeah, I suppose it depends whether it clashes with the start of the county championships.
We're going to have to coordinate calendars and things like that to make
I think we will.
We're doing.
Here's Root, bowls this time to Axar, who pushes it out. Let's hope he gets a single. He does. That brings Washington Sundar back on strike. 4 runs away from his maiden Test century. We want him to get it, and we're cheering him on. All neutral fans, aside from rabid England supporters, will want, maybe they would too, would want Washington Sundar to get his maiden Test century because he deserves it. Yeah, Punts was the sort of the more exceptional innings, but Sundar's played his hand too. Outside the off stump, he leaves that one alone as it spins away from Root, and it will be only his 2nd first-class century. Well, what a performance! 171 balls. He's hit 10 fours and a 6. Is it coming up now? Outside the off stump, it's very wide. Root's playing for time here.
Joe Root's bowling very negatively in the last over. You're not being helped here by the England captain, David.
Knackle tells me he got his previous first-class 100 opening the batting, and he's looked very much capable of doing that. What a player to have coming in at number 8. Here's Root bowls to him, and he sort of paddles that away, but straight to mid-on, where... there's an appeal for a run out at the non-strikers end, so this won't affect Washington Sundar, but it could...
What
the end of
great-
the partnership. It was. I see Anderson had been replaced by Bairstow in that position at sort of mid-wicket, wide mid-on, threw down the stumps at the non-striker's end, and it's not Washington Sundar who's in trouble. It's Axar Patel, non-striker. Let's have a look at that. Looks like he's in trouble here, that is out. He's gone. So
No.
Oh,
is he?
Yeah, I think the bell.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I think the bell came off.
Well, is it when the bails are lit or when the bails are dislodged?
It's when it's out of the groove, isn't it?
But it's number 20 who's in trouble. That's Axar Patel, and I think he's starting to walk back. It was a wonderful piece of fielding by Johnny Bairstow, and let's see, Joe Root took the ball and took a while to get the bail off, and
he's still not in.
I think the bail has come off, and you really need those IPL bails that really light up, and that's an innovation. The bell lights up when it leaves the groove, says Knuckle, and he's out. So that's the end of Axar Patel. So this partnership has been broken by a run out at the non-striker's end. The ball had been hit back firmly to mid-on, and Bairstow, very alert, throwing down the non-striker, and Axar Patel goes for a very good innings of 43.
There must be a run out here. Oh, how tragic. How tragic, how tragic, how tragic.
Tragic might be the right word there, David.
That is a great a great sound bite there from the great John Arlott. Alongside Hendo, future generations will be talking about you in the same breath as Arlott, Laker, Martin Jenkins, Hendo.
Some bloke called Martin Jenkins, yeah, probably more like that. I think I was at school with a bloke called Martin Jenkins, but there you go.
CMJ?
Not that one, no, unfortunately not. 365 for 8. Grubby should be arriving, along with Knackle, and Forthy should be coming back as well. I will just say that with your final ball there, David, you did get a wicket. You didn't get Washington to 100, but you got England a wicket, and that really looked about the only way that England would get a wicket this morning, I'm afraid to say. Anyway, it's time for Grubby. It's time for Knuckles, sorry. It's time for Grubby and Forthy to come back. I'm just going to tell Grubby, I'm up to Tada McSporran, which is a fantastic handle, on the tweets.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nigel Hendo Henderson. Yes, Akshat Patel, 7 short of a first Test match 50. Nice bit of work from Johnny Bairstow at short mid-wicket to whip the ball back in. Joe Root just about dislodging the bails. It would have been somehow symbolic of England's morning if Joe Root had missed the stumps. India 365 for 8 after 114 overs. They lead by 160 runs, and if England started this morning with a chance to keep India in check, that chance seems well and truly gone. India were in complete cruise control up until that run out, and may remain so. This brings to the crease with the run out happening at the non-striker's end. The man playing his 101st Test match.
Ishant Sharma's gonna get you, gonna look you right in the face. Better get yourself together, darling. Learn how to play pace. How in the world you gonna see netting against trundlers like me? Who in the hell do you think you are? A superstar? Well, right you are.
Can Ishant Mohammad Siraj see Washington Sundar through to a first Test 100? He fell 15 runs short. He was stranded on his home ground in Chennai, now in Ahmedabad. Can he get there? Ishant Sharma facing up to Ben Stokes. Full delivery, and Ishant Sharma is struck on the pad. It's a huge in-swinging Yorker from Ben Stokes. The tall man Ishant Sharma struck on the pad, and I think he's been given. Ben Stokes didn't even bother looking around at the umpire, and I don't think Ishant Sharma is bothering to review it. Big in-swinging Yorker to the 6'4" tail, and struck in front of middle and off, and Washington Sundar could well be denied. Don't think that Ishant is reviewing it. No, he hasn't. Big full in-swinger struck him in front of middle, and Ishant Sharma is gone for a golden duck.
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle.
And it looks as though Washington might be denied. Might be left high and dry.
It does. Let me do some tweets. So, as Hendo rightly said, Tada McSporran has been in touch. New one on me. Hello, Tada. Just saying, bowl once, bowl long. Messy Jez says, partnership jingle from Jeff Perkins. Yeah. Always good. Anand Datla says, get the laundry done and pack the bags. They are cooked. Gary Corkin says, in superb fashion, in fairness, though hard to imagine 212 for 1 in 54 overs not being in superb fashion. Anna Forsyth says, it's not a rhyme, my friend, it's just the surname, and if you don't know what that is, open up Urban Dictionary.
Yes, that was Ollie Pope being struck in the gooch a little bit earlier. Anyway, a man who's done some fine things in his brief Test career thus far has the task of being the latest to try and see Washington through to a maiden Test 100. 365 for 9, this man.
When you gotta fight your way from the streets, gonna find a way to land in your food. There's only one man who could save us now. It's Mama Siraj.
In comes Stokes, a full delivery outside off stump, and Washington Siraj plays very nice shots to a completely different ball to the one he actually faced. He backed away outside leg, tried to drive it on the up through the covers. It was well outside off stump. There is no run.
My apologies if the world just caught a glimpse of the other of my teenage sons just going behind me with a fistful of washing in his hand. There's one point I think it's worth, a few points worth making. I'll make them gradually. 365 for 9 on first innings in a test match should make for a very close test match.
Yes, in theory, England wasted perfectly reasonable batting conditions. Down the leg side, going for the leg stump Yorker was Ben Stokes. Siraj lets it go through to Ben Folkes, who skips down leg to take, and there is no run.
And I guess considering England are a bowler short and one of their bowlers is barely able to land it on the square, full marks to the rest of their lineup, but obviously the wheels have somewhat come off this morning.
Yeah, we've talked about that, haven't we? How Dom Bess, England going with a bowler less, and then Dom Bess not really being able to be bowled at times, and extra miles in the legs of the likes of Ben Stokes, who has ended with a 4-for, and Washington Sundar is left high and dry, 96 not out. For the second time in the series he's left not far away from a first Test 100. He's left on 96 not out as Mohammad Siraj backed away and was clean bowled. That was somewhat predictable, and India lose 3 for none. A collapse to 365 all out, leading by 160. Disappointing for Washington Sundar, but a fine innings that the young all-rounder has played, and England have a hell of a task on now to bat big and get to parity and possibly beyond, and make this fourth Test match competitive. But we shall signal the removal from the crease of Washington Siraj and the end of the Indian innings.
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle.
Mixed feelings, Grubby, for Washington.
Yeah, I mean, he's played superbly well, first in support of Rishabh Pant yesterday, and then in conjunction with Akshar Patel today. Just getting a close-up of his face there as Siraj backed away, bowl full and straight to the tail enders, and you like to get the rewards. And poor old Washington's face was, a picture of disappointment, I suppose it's fair to say. But there is a theory to say that this pitch, maybe today, tomorrow is the best time to bat on it. Don't know, and maybe England will make it look difficult as it did in the first innings. We don't know, but there's still a bit of juice left in this game, I reckon. I'm just going to get through a few more tweets as well because they are flooding in. Venkatash said, "Great point by David Brooke. I've never seen a Test side go into a Test with just 3 frontline bowlers. Jimmy and Stokes' performance shouldn't overshadow poor selection." Possibly. Mog says, "If I quadruple my amount, you'll be able to retire to some fucking Caribbean island." He says, "Thanks, Mog. So please do quadruple the amount." And India is having a go at LS, as I'll call him, on the TV commentary. Anna Forsyth says, "Don't you think that England should have told the fans or Indian team, or at least the umpires, if they weren't going to turn up today?" Very funny, Anna. And India is in some conversation, which I'm not going to go into. Angelic Scooters, hello Scott, says, "Well, I guess on the bright side there won't be any tests featuring Australia this northern summer. That seems cause for celebration itself. Great England plan to bowl for the run out," says Messi Jez. Mog says, "Have you got some subtle reverb on your voice, Knuckle? Have you?"
That'll be very nice to think. I don't know if I have a bit of extra rumble. I do have a nice microphone, which helps.
Mayank preempted Washington, ending up short of his century in the cruelest of fashions. And Hombre Nuevo says, "Morning, fantastic gorillas. Late to the game. Has the wicket flattened out?" That's one thing we were just starting to speculate on. Or are we in Sisyphus mode and pushing a large cricket ball up a hill. Is that Sisyphus?
Sisyphus, yeah. I don't think there's a great deal. I mean, the pitch has been sporty, as I heard you describe it earlier. Grubby. There's plenty in it. It's been a decent Test wicket, but there's runs to be had in this wicket. There's good carry, which is obviously often good for batting on. The odd balls turning, but nothing extravagant. It's a bit of movement for the seamers, but nothing extravagant. England did the first bit right. They won the toss and they in decent batting conditions, but by and large batted really quite poorly yesterday and ceded the advantage of winning the toss. As it was, India was 146 for 5 before Rishabh Pant started to do his thing. 146 for 6, indeed, and probably India underperformed with their top order. But by hook or crook, they've got themselves to a very promising lead. I will just go through the scorecard while we have this innings break, and we'll go to the scorecard and put it up on screen now because we can do these things. So the first man to go late on day one was Shubman Gill LBW to James Anderson for a duck, his fourth low score in a row. Yesterday morning, Cheteshwar Pujara was removed for LBW for Jack Leach, the second time LBW to Leach in the series, the fourth time overall in the series. Lovely bowling to have Cheteshwar Pujara trapped in front. Virat Kohli fell in a few overs later for a duck, a lifter from Ben Stokes that Virat Kohli should have left or tried to hit. He ended up fending at it and gave the catch through to Ben Folkes. A lovely delivery. Ajinkya Rahane was positive. Some people said skittish. I thought he batted quite nicely before he was removed by Stokes, poking at a delivery just before lunch to be caught by Ben Stokes off James Anderson. At that point, India were 80 for 4 on the stroke of lunch. Rohit Sharma and Rishabh Pant put on a bit of a stand before Rohit was removed for a dogged and uncharacteristic 49 by a beautiful in-swinger from Ben Stokes. And Ashwin was only able to add 13 before clipping Jack Leach rather softly to a leaping Ollie Pope at short mid-wicket. At that point, England were well in the game, leading by 50 or so, 146 for 6. And then Rishabh Pant happened. The first 50 off 82 balls was him batting on a different pitch. The next 50 off 30-odd balls was him playing a completely different sport. Magnificent counter-attack against the second new ball from a true potential superstar of world cricket. 101 off 118, putting on a big partnership of 113 with the admirable Washington Sundar before Rishabh Pant swiped James Anderson to Joe Root, a stunning knock. And then this morning, late last night and today, Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar adding 106 for the 8th wicket, and looking completely trouble-free until it all ended quite quickly just in the last few overs. Akshar Patel very well run out by Johnny Bairstow from short mid-wicket for 43. Akshar was trying to get the single, was sent back and to dive back into his crease and was short, trying to get Washington on strike and failing to do so. And then India's two tail-end fast bowlers, Ishant Sharma and Ben Stokes, LBW, and bowled by Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Siraj bowled and LBW respectively by Ben Stokes. Ishant trapped in front, Siraj bowled backing away, both for ducks. Ben Stokes ends with 4 for 89 in a series of Herculean spells yesterday and today. James Anderson, 25 overs, 14 maidens, 3 for 44, was at times unplayable and unhittable. Jack Leach, yeoman work from him, 27 overs, 5 maidens, 2 for 89 for the summer session. The former summer session, though, Dominic Bess, a couple of tough days at the office, 17 overs, 1 maiden, none for 71, and at times completely bereft of confidence. Joe Root bowled more overs than Dom Bess in that innings, which I think tells you a lot. 18 overs, 1 maiden, none for 56. The upshot of all that is that India are 365 all out, lead by 160, and we will soon see England trying to get themselves into this Test match and Grubby and Forthy bat a hell of a lot better, hopefully, than they did in the first innings.
Yes, I mean, even granted that the match is probably gone, you don't often come back from 150 down. There's a huge amount of play to play for the individuals in the batting lineup, is the first thing to say. There's a lot playing for their places. A significant score, possibly even a century, is not beyond the bounds of any of them, really, and it would stand them in very good stead. And I think the other thing to say is that I appreciate they've been in a bubble for a long time. I appreciate they've just off the back of, this will be their 6th test on the subcontinent. And it's traditional to say, oh, well, they've got one foot on the plane home. Of course, many of them don't at the end of this test series. But I think back to India in Australia only, 2 months ago. And you could have said the same about them. Oh, well, it's, they'll either shut up shop or perhaps they'll collapse in the heat because it's very difficult to tour Australia. Well, look what India managed to pull off on the last day of the Brisbane Test of the last tour. Look at the spirit in that camp. What an incredible performance that was. So it'll be very interesting to contrast England's performance in the innings coming up.
A little bit different when the series is still live, I suppose, and obviously, and the Sydney draw before that as well, and obviously with various bowlers variously injured. I mean, it should be pointed out, that was an extraordinary series of events, but still, I mean, there is something to play for England for sure, and if you're gonna give up in that sense, then what is the point?
No, I stand by what I said earlier on, chaps. I think England need 2 batting heroes. Not beyond the realms of possibility, perhaps unlikely given how they've batted in the last 5 innings or so. But you can imagine Root getting a century and someone like Stokes or Pope accompanying him. And then who knows, if England get a lead of 150, looking a day or 2 ahead, then it could be game on again. So you just don't know. And I do think that the pitch is arguably at its best for batting now and into tomorrow. So we shall see. Let's hope it goes deep into the game. I'm just going to do a few more tweets. Harry Atkinson was celebrating the metal jingle. Armchair Cricket Podcast has been in touch. Josie Oak, as usual, is saying we're doomed and it will be over by tea. Nitin Bajaj is heartbroken for Washington. Leah pulls you up on calling him Washington Siraj. Knuckle, don't worry too much about that. Don Best may have disproved this notion, says Gorilla Cricket, but it's still a great T-shirt. Yes, you can buy some T-shirts at Redbubble.
That will be the one that says "Shit gets wickets."
There we are. Yes. The light roller is also feeling sorry for Washington Sundar. Deserved a century, he certainly did. Messi Jez also adding to that sentiment. And India, our friend in India says, I know it's difficult for tailenders, but they are playing Test cricket. Have to call it a lack of application by Ishant and Siraj that prevents Washington Sundar's maiden century. He's a harsh taskmaster, Ishant. Leah saying true all-rounder. And actually, Knuckle is starting to sound like Elvis, says our friend Woy Pom.
Yes, I wouldn't necessarily blame Ishant. He was done with a really good full ball first up, and that would have been too good for many tail enders, but Siraj should not have been backing away.
No, indeed. It is going to be the backer away who is going to take up the cudgels for India first up.
When you gotta fight your way from the streets, gonna find a way to land in your food. There's only one man who can save us now. Where's Mama Siraj?
That'll be the jingle that Harriet was celebrating.
Yeah, indeed. And he comes right on over the wicket to a tall man of Kent who leaves well outside the line of off stump through to the keeper, Rishabh Pant. And there is no run from the Reliance end. Mohammad Siraj is bowling to this tall man of Kent, or possibly Kentish man.
Zach Croy was a cricket player, a damn good cricket player. But he was moved from the middle order to open the batting. Now, trapped in the English professional cricket circuit, Zach Crawley must fight to survive.
Had a curious tour, Zach Crawley. Some good innings, but some ones where he's looked rather uncertain of technique. This is closer to off stump, and Crawley is still able to leave with a bit of a wrist flick, dies rather through to Rishabh Pant, and there is no run.
Well, I personally don't think it was the right thing to ask him to open. I think Burns perhaps could have given another chance, and then we wouldn't have had to pick Bairstow.
he was dumped rather unceremoniously, was Rory Burns, albeit he was his technique was rather picked apart forensically by Ard Ashwin, which can happen. As outside off stump and left alone by Crawley through to the keeper, there is no run.
Tend to be very critical of someone like Mike Gatting and think, well, what a terrible test average he had. I think actually he's got a better test average than Johnny Bairstow has, sad to say. Although, of course, Johnny has kept wicket for many of those tests.
Yeah, indeed, and we're in a very bowling-friendly era, and there's a lot of very good bowling attacks around the world, but the development of the Bairstow gate in the last few years has been a little bit alarming. 3 slips and a gully as Siraj is in. This one is on the stumps. Crawley whips it away, not particularly convincingly, but gets most of the bat on it to Mayank Agarwal, who's on the field for somebody at mid-wicket, and there is no run.
By the way, what is the difference between a Kentish man and a man of Kent?
I think it depends which side of the Medway you were born. I can never remember which way round it is.
Someone will tell us, I'm sure.
I could help you out with Curate's Egg, but I can't remember the distinction there. Sorry.
So it's all part of your first day test, Forthy.
little grenades you're throwing my way, yes.
Yes, trivia grenades. Left alone outside off stump. No need to play at that for Crawley. Through to the keeper, there is no run. A bit of a loosener of an over, really, from Mohammad Siraj, but such is the situation that he's going to get away with it, probably with a maiden.
Are there any taller specialist batsmen, or should I say specialised batsmen, in world cricket right now? I can think of Jason Holder, but he's not a specialist batsman, he's an all-rounder.
I was going to say Cameron Green, but he's also an all-rounder. Zach Crawley is a very tall man, 6'5", towering and sort of willowy presence at the crease. He will get off the mark, and as will England, with one that he whips pleasantly off his pads down to Mayank Agarwal, who was pushed back to deep square leg. They come through for the single 1 run off the first over of England's second innings. They are 1 for none, trailing by 159 after, if you were just joining us, India bowled out for 365, a fine partnership of 106 between Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar. But then Akshar was run out. Ishant Sharma was LBW to Ben Stokes, and Mohammad Siraj was bowled by Ben Stokes, all within the space of 5 balls to leave Washington Sundar 4 short of a maiden Test 100. India 365 all out, and England, say, 1 for none, trailing by 159. It is going to be pace at one end and spin at t'other. The man who has tormented England throughout his debut series from the Adani end, this man.
The stroke play is diverse and as sweet as a slice of Battenberg. Extra, 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 because if you can't score runs, then it's
bowling to Zach Crawley, who comes forward and pushes to mid-off, and there is no run. Crawley has shown a propensity to play for turn that isn't there to Akshar Patel, which is always dangerous. Let's see if he's taken the advice of many and just started to play the line, and he does play the line on that occasion. Plays for it to come in, and doesn't straighten the bats a little bit with that very wide of the crease angle that Akshar bowls, and beats him on the outside edge. There is no run, but I do think there's fourthly, there is some case for, if you get beaten, so be it, move on. Still in.
Yes, very much so.
As Crawley backs away, having spotted someone behind the bowler's arm.
I'd be interested in your opinions. Does he actually have an arm ball as such, or does he bowl it at such a horizontal angle with the seam at the horizontal that he doesn't need to, and he relies on simple natural variation?
This is a length delivery which Crawley goes back to and whips to backward square leg, and they come through for a single. I haven't seen him bowl an arm ball in the traditional sense of the one that with the seam up. No, you're quite right. He bowls with the seam in such a way that sort of fairly horizontal, the seam sort of 90 degrees to the direction of travel. Yeah. Sometimes it'll hit the seam and spin, sometimes it'll hit the leather and skid on, and he was brilliant at that with the pink ball in the last test match. But what his skill is to be able to bowl it in such a way that whether it turns or not, it's dangerous. And with that sort of quite round arm action, when it does turn, it turns big. half appeal from Akshar Patel, three-quarter appeal from Rishabh Pant spreading his arms. Sibley is struck on the pad, but it's clearly going down leg. Virat Kohli don't even think about reviewing that. He isn't. We'll jingle up Dominic Sibley.
Efficient batting. He made huge runs to rumours spread by word of mouth.
In comes Sibley, comes down the track looking to use his feet to Akshar, which I think is the correct way to go. He just squirts off the outside part of the bat to cover. There is no run.
Yeah, use of the feet was good, but looking to play against the spin, perhaps not the right thing
Well,
to do.
I don't see a problem with that. If you can get to the spin, in some ways it's actually safer because you're sort of playing with the full face of the bat, but he turned the bat too early. Stays in the crease, which is a little bit risky, and how Sibley has been out a couple of times. Blocks this on the bounce to short leg. There is no run. One run off the second over as well. England 2 for none, trail by 158. You've got 4 minutes left to enter the GPL. Not very long at all until lunch. Go to GorillaCricket.com/competition and enter the GPL. Guess the number of runs that will be scored in the day's play. You pay £1 per guess. All your pounds go into a pot, and if you're bang on, you win the pot, which started at £81 and has been grown by the contributions of messages and Hombre Nuevo. You have 4 minutes. GorillaCricket.com/competitions.
Here are a few tweets. Shubham is also feeling for Washington Sundar. Anindo says there'll be some tension in the changing room for a few minutes about the tailenders not allowing him to get through to century. Bhaskar Chakraborty is mentioning Engineer and Chandrasekhar, saying when Chandrasekhar took wickets he just kept taking them.
In comes Mohammad Siraj. Full delivery, clipped nicely into the leg side by Zach Crawley. It wasn't particularly leg side, he only middle and off, really, and he clips it up to Ashwin, who slides at mid-on. They come through for a single, all 3 runs to Zach Crawley. Very early Bannerman watch.
Matt Harris says royally fucked. Lovely, thank you very much. The light roller says, so England cleaned up the tail in 5 balls. Unfortunately, it took 1 hour and 40 minutes to get to that point. Michael Wagner says, now there's an innings break. There's an opportunity to update you about the most important match happening today, which is what? I don't know. And he looked very good in Australia too. Will Jadeja struggle to regain his place?
No. Back of a length outside off stump, and Sibley blocked into the offside. There is no run. We've had... we talked a little bit about how India were missing bowlers in Australia, but Mohammad Shami, who's been probably India's best bowler in India over the last few years, Umesh Yadav, who runs in close for that, and Ravindra Jadeja have played no part in the series, and to a fair extent haven't been missed. Or even mentioned in some cases.
I was talking about it a lot before the series because I think Jadeja is just a wonderful player and would have been missed, but testament to, well, particularly Akshar Patel, I suppose, that he hasn't been. And he's not always been picked anyway, has he? Weirdly enough, I'd always find room for him in my team.
Oh, I think he always is in India. He always is in India alongside Ashwin. Length delivery and nudged by Sibley into the onside, fielded by Mayank Agarwal, and there is no run. In fact, sometimes Jadeja has almost become the first choice spinner when they only go with 1 spinner, just purely because of his, well, not purely, but the fact that he is a genuine potential 6 or 7 with the bat.
Don't know if you're aware, I just mentioned the Bannerman, and obviously it is a trifle premature to be talking about it, but nonetheless he has surfaced. He does hold more than 1 record from that first Test match still, Charles Bannerman. I don't know whether you know what the other one is.
I think I can hazard a guess after this delivery from Mohammad Siraj. Full delivery and whipped very pleasantly by Dom Sibley round the corner to long leg. Washington Sundar has to do good work down there at long leg, and so well actually did Sibley time that they were only able to come through for a single. I mean, there are a lot of ones that are obviously not going to be beaten because it was, he was the first man to face a ball in Test cricket.
Not that. No.
First man ever to be retired hurt in Test cricket.
No.
But one that could be broken. No, it's escaped me.
Okay. He's the highest debut score by an Australian on his Test debut.
Really?
Yeah. I think Kepler Wessel's got within 1 run of him. And I think Archie Jackson back in the early 30s got within 3 or 4 runs of him, but he maintains the record.
Can I say, Forthy, you'll fit in well here. 3 steps from the goal, backward point, cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg, fairly orthodox field. This is turned by Crawley, square of Mayank, who was a sort of squarish mid-wicket rather than orthodox square leg. He has to chase back to the boundary, a not particularly good throw, which Rishabh Pant does not thank him for having to take on the second bounce. come through for 2. Early indications that what we were talking about this pitch being basically fine are true. There's not been any swing yet, which we did see with the new ball in both innings. Ishant Sharma in particular was getting the ball to swing sharply into the right-hander. Not seen him as yet. Looks as though India might be putting a man in short on the onside as Ajinkya Rahane comes out from gully to short mid-wicket. So in fact now we've got one slip and a gully in a short mid-wicket and an extra man in the offside. So India reacting perhaps to the fact that the pitch seems relatively easy paced and the ball isn't swinging as yet. A little bit early maybe, but there we go. Shortish mid-wicket in place for that shot that Crawley plays off the hips. Full delivery, driven nicely down the ground by Crawley, and well fielded off his own bowling by Mohammad Siraj. Cricket was the winner. Lovely stuff all around. Good delivery, good shot, well fielded. There is no run. 4 runs off the over. Mohammad Siraj is recovering from the impact. England 6 for no loss, trailing by 154. Hopefully Mohammad Siraj hasn't actually done himself some damage.
Is that meant to be lunch now? Because they don't appear to be wandering off.
It should be lunch. It is 6:01 a.m. UK time, which makes it 11:31 Ahmedabad time, and they are all wandering off. Mohammad Siraj is getting some attention to his hand as the players wander off for lunch. It was driven very fiercely by Crawley, and it struck him sort of on the base of the hand, on the base of the thumb, on the wrist. Mohammad Siraj, as he flung himself well to his left to prevent 4 runs. It'll be sore, hopefully no more than sore, and they'll have 40 minutes of attention to that left hand. But that is lunch on day 3 of this 4th test between India and England at the Modi Dome in Motera, Ahmedabad. India's session, indubitably, they started today with a lead of 89. They started on 294 for 7, and then Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar added 294, added 71 in very quick time indeed. They managed to. Was it in 20 overs, I think, that they batted this morning. England rather a little bit toothless and a little bit short of ideas. Then Akshar Patel was run out nicely by Johnny Bairstow from short mid-wicket, 43 off 97, falling short of his first Test 50, and then within a few deliveries it was all over. Ishant Sharma faced 1 ball and was LBW to a big in-swinger from Ben Stokes. Some indication of how plumb it was, that even though India had reviews left and a man close to a Test 100, they didn't bother reviewing. Then 3 balls later, Mohammad Siraj, having backed away to his previous 2 deliveries, backed away to the next one and was bowled for naught, leaving Washington Sundar high and dry on 96 not out. But a wonderful innings from Washington at number 8. Resurrecting the innings after England had been brilliant for the first 2 sessions yesterday, with Anderson, Stokes and Leach doing fine work in this rather undermanned attack before Rishabh Pant and Washington took the game away from them. India ended on 365 all out. England in the 3 overs that have happened in the second their second innings thus far up until lunch. 6-4 known and trail by 154 runs.
Right, I'm about a decade behind on tweets, so let me just mop a few of those up before we head off for the innings break. Vishal Deep Gupta is replying to an India and bemoaning that Siraj wasn't in the mood to hang around. And India then talks about Farooq Engineer, saying seen Engineer keep, and Kimani was a far better keeper. Kimani was also a very decent bat. In fact, in the famous India schoolboys team to England, went as a batsman. Engineer opened a lot, hence has more noticeable scores. Kiri saved India many times, says India. Good background there, thank you for that. And Mog says, I agree that Siraj jingle is fucking mint, because presumably he wrote it. £85 is in the GPL pot. Messi Jez emphasises that for us. You can't enter anymore, by the way, but there's always tomorrow, or is there? Venkatash says Sundar has scored a 50 in every ground that he's played. Good point there, Venkatesh. Thank you for that. Anna Forsyth says, if we are to believe our friends at the Grade Cricketer, tall runs, TM, are weird runs, which is why we don't get tall specialist bats. I mean, you think back to Matthew Hayden, Phil Simmons, people like that. They were tall fellas, weren't they? But it does tend to be the shorter guys who seem to.
Yeah, it's a balance and a sort of flexibility and lightness of feet that has to happen. Yeah, Matthew Hayden probably the best properly tall batter in recent times. Marcus Trescothick was tall but not super tall.
Kevin Peterson is pretty tall.
Kevin Peterson, similar height, 6'4", and remarkably light on his feet for a four-man of that size.
Krishna Jaga says both the tail enders were expecting the short ball. That's why they got out, and they're not very good at batting, would be the other point, I suppose, to make. Ashwin is in touch, interestingly, from the ground, perhaps. Most useless commentator I've heard for a while. Who's that referring to? Let me just go in there. Oh, yeah, LS he's talking about there, if you're interested.
I'm glad it wasn't me.
Is in touch, Venkatesh is in touch, and that will do you for the tweets for now, I think.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to go to a little bit of archive content from us fine folk here on Guerrilla Cricket, and we'll be we've been chatting with various people from and related to the mission of the Cricket Supporters Association over the last several months, and we caught up with them the other day to find out exactly what is going on. Tony got in touch with Becky Fairley-Clark, who is their CEO, and it's a fine chat between the two of them, and so we'll give you a fair chunk of that to take you through the lunch break. Join us again in about half an hour or so, but until then, lunch well all.
Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Guerrilla Cricket.
Hello, welcome to another Guerrilla Cricket discussion and podcast. The Cricket Supporters Association is a fully independent, democratic, not-for-profit organisation which has been established to give all cricket fans a voice and have their rights represented. A central pillar of giving fans that voice is their annual survey, the 5th edition of which will be launched this month, having started back in 2017. Today I'm with Becky Fairley-Clark, who's a co-founder of the CSA, and really we're going to be looking at two things. What has changed over the previous issues, and most importantly, what impact has it had and why cricket fans should take part. And then we'll want to look at, well, what are those key issues to be covered, and how can cricket supporters actually still shape what those might be in this forthcoming survey. Becky, a very, very warm welcome back, because you've been with us before.
I know, thank you so much for having me back, really appreciate it.
Well, let's start with a quick reminder from you of who the CSA are and how, very importantly, you ensure that the views and needs of cricket supporters actually get represented.
Sure, thank you. So, as you mentioned, the Cricket Supporters Association is a completely independent, not-for-profit, very much designed and set up, just as you say, to give cricket fans a voice within the game. So, when you think of the various stakeholders that there are in cricket, there isn't an independent fan organisation and a place where other stakeholders can come to find what fans think about what's going on within the game. So we've been set up for that. Everyone can join. We're looking for every cricket fan, whether you're a massive county championship fan or you just like international T20s or whatever, to come to take part in our survey, as you say, and other activities that we have going on, and just get your voice heard. We're very much of the opinion that obviously one individual fan, it's very unlikely that, you know, the ECB or whoever is going to listen to one individual fan, but if we all come together, have our say on all the different things that are going on within the game. So this is what the survey looks at, you know, everything from ticketing, scheduling, all the different stuff. Have their, you know, put your opinion across, and then with that we take the data, we work it out, and we can then go forward to the ECB, to the counties, to whoever, and kind of say this is what fans are thinking. Also reverse, as we get more numbers within the organisation, we're positioning ourselves as a place that the ECB can come to when they want to know what fans think about. So not just fans reacting all the time, but a proactive stance as well, so that stakeholders, as I say, counties or whoever, can come and say, okay, we're thinking about this. What do fans, what will the fans' reaction be? So it's very much for existing cricket fans to be able to join the community, come together, and then instead of just feeling like this is the game that I love, this is the game that I spend my money on, but what I think doesn't matter, this is the opportunity for it to matter and to kind of...
Well, you touched on a couple of things there. You talked about the ECB. So to be really clear, when someone takes the time to fill in this survey, you make sure that it gets to the right people. And you mentioned the ECB about 3 times. Actually, when I looked at you, kindly sent me some presentations that seem to have got better and fuller and more beautiful in some ways as the years have gone on of doing the survey. But that gets listened to, presented to, and discussed with the ECB, particularly, right? So they see it, hear it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that, quite rightly say, that's something that's grown as we've grown. So as the number of people who have taken the survey has grown substantially, and we want it to be the biggest yet, and so our kind of place within cricket has also grown, and I think we've had the opportunity to kind of show that we're not a lobbying group, we're not here just to bash the ECB, but we are here to hold them accountable and to represent fans' views. So our relationship with the ECB has grown as well over that time. So we have a good working relationship with them. They know that there's a new survey coming out, and they have said that they will respond to the survey. What the survey is telling them, the ECB will respond directly to the Cricket Supporters Association about the different issues that are being highlighted. So and as we say, moving on, and the more members that we have, the more voice we will have. It's just that numbers are really important here, and people from different age groups, different backgrounds, as I say, different lovers of different formats of the game. So but there is a good working relationship, and I have been assured as before that we will get a response from the ECB in terms of what the survey tells us.
Well, let's if we may just look back, not in every survey in detail. I don't think anyone who's ever listening to this is quite going to want to hear that. But let's think if there are some big themes that you're seeing. Now, it started in 2017, and I think the most recent one was 2020. Hence, there's been 4. Am I right? And the last one kind of started to focus in around what happens in the world of a pandemic and issues that there as well. What do you think are some of the big things we've seen? One thing that absolutely struck me was you talked about growing the voice. You started off, I think, with about 300, and in the last one, was it about over 3,000? That's pretty impressive. Yeah, it was getting on for that's a growing voice, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And I think that all comes from, people seeing the value of, taking the surveys and something happening as a result of it.
Do you have a figure in mind for how many people you want this year?
I would love, if we could get over 5,000, that would be, and then the growth kind of the Cricket Supporters Association is, if we could then get up to like 10,000 people where they just, so it starts becoming numbers that it's really, really difficult to ignore. I think we've got a great relationship already, or growing relationship, I would say, already, which is good. But the more fans we get involved that kind of give their opinions, share their experience. We know that from the surveys that we've done that fans want to share their experience with the stakeholders within the game to ensure the growth and prosperity of cricket. So it's kind of like, let's come together, even though not every cricket fan thinks the same. I mean, let's highlight that, you know, with the survey, what you say and your opinion might not be the majority opinion, but we can put all of the facts and stats together and present those as one. And it's got to be better to kind of have had an opportunity to know that your voice is being counted, a bit like in democracy, you know, in an election, than kind of just sitting there feeling frustrated and feeling like what you care about and what you think doesn't matter and doesn't count at all.
You don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
you know, so.
What other things have you seen across the 4 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, free to air was of, sorry, yeah, thank you. Free to air has been massive all the way along. So, and specifically Test cricket. So, from 2017, we've had kind of over 70% of people wanting to have Test cricket free to air, which has been, you know, something we've been discussing throughout that time, and obviously is now happened with Channel 4 and the India Test series, so that's been fantastic. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the kind of, and back in 2007 to what is now the 100, we called it a city-based franchise T20, because that was how it was kind of being discussed then. There's always been concern, and you know, kind of how's that all going to work, and so related to that is scheduling, and you know, how all the different competitions are going to fit. As they say, that was a concern back in 2017, and the potential changes that were happening, and so on. And obviously now, as we continue on with the 100 going in as well, and then this year with the pandemic, you know, that's certainly something with our 2021 survey will be a big kind of focus in terms of understanding what people want to see in terms of the schedule and how they feel about what's proposed, etc. And then what I think an interesting fact, though, that I, looking back on it, was in 2017 there was quite a big distrust between the kind of the Sky money in the game and whether it was needed and all that, but that has massively changed to kind of in 2020. You know, there was I can't remember the exact stat now, but it was a huge number of fans were very pleased with the Sky and saw the importance of the Sky revenue, broadcast revenue, and the impact that it has all through down to the grassroots of the game. And I thought that was quite interesting that kind of has changed, because I think there was naively a consideration amongst some of the stakeholders that fans just didn't understand cricket. You know, they just have a passion and they don't really understand the commercial side and all that. But actually, you know, we do understand, we do get the bigger picture with it, and so don't dismiss it, you know, say, oh well, fans don't really know. I think we do and we understand. So I thought that was really interesting, as I say, that's changed. But also, like, looking at ticket prices and how much people are prepared to pay for Test cricket tickets or domestic cricket tickets and stuff. So
you were kind enough to share some of those with me, and one of the things I picked up on was that our survey respondents are very realistic. So the expectation of what it's reasonable to pay has kind of risen with inflation, as it were, and perhaps a little bit beyond. So you mentioned a few things there which I think are interesting. You talked about free to air and how that has been a growing clamour within the survey, and clearly that's happened. We're not saying that's direct cause and effect, but it's clearly part of a voice that has pushed things in that direction. You've talked about value for money and pricing, and ensuring that the requirements and expectations there are clearly presented forward as cricket supporters to the ECB. What about the people who have responded to the survey? How has the profile changed over those 4 years?
It has changed, but it needs to continue to change as well. So we've kind of had a rise in female respondents, but we're still looking for kind of more, because I know, being a female cricketer, that there are a lot of us out there, and so, you know, we need to do work there and to make sure we get as far and wide there as we possibly can within the kind of Black and Asian Middle Eastern communities. That again has also grown, but we want to grow that considerably more as well. And obviously we have launched our Every Cricket Fan, our diversity and inclusion initiative, and so I'm hoping that some of the work we're already doing with that will kind of filter through and help as well. Age group wise, that's been a real success for us, because with our last survey, the age 16 to 24, we got a much bigger representation of that age group as well. And obviously we still want the white and the male and the older age groups absolutely to take part, but I think for it to be as as independent and as comprehensive as possible, we do need to have a fair spread of cricket fans. So we really are asking everyone kind of get involved, take the survey. We always have some sort of incentives as well, so there will be you can win cricket tickets or cricket helmets or something. We always have something as well, so there is an incentive to do it, as well as just feeling good about having the chance to voice your opinion.
So you've seen big growth in numbers, but the louder the voice, the even more effective it becomes. You've seen the change in the spread in terms of inclusivity. In fact, when I looked at the numbers, going from the very first survey to the last one, whilst the percentage of female responders needs to go up, it's grown about 5 or 6 times, but it needs to grow quicker. There's no doubt about that. The age profile I thought was very interesting, because that gets you into other expectations, and when people are talking about things like what they expect out of a new tournament, perhaps a little more open-mindedness comes along with the younger age, opening up to the younger age group, which I sort of found interesting. Also, what they expect from their online consumption of the sport, which has been pushed for very much, for greater avenues for interaction with their counties, greater ways to view the game beyond just watching the telly, although that clearly is very important, hence the focus on free-to-air. And the other thing that I noticed, which I thought was quite interesting and I wanted to ask you about, was how the geographical spread has broadened. So I looked at that first one, I thought, well, I'm definitely in there because I'm a Middlesex fan, and if I'm a Surrey fan, I'm also in there. Let's just say kindly, there was a north-south divide, with the south heavily favoured. That has really shifted across the four to be truly a much broader spread. Has that just happened sort of organically, or have you pushed very hard to make that happen?
Pushed quite hard to make that happen. We do have various partners that help kind of push out the survey as well. So the Barmy Army always push out the survey for us, and some of the counties and different things. And obviously we work with a lot of media partners, so even if they're just tweeting it and stuff like that, they get it out. So I think there's a certain amount of organic, but we were very conscious of the fact that we aren't a southeastern fan group, in the same way that we're not a full 50 plus fan group, or we are trying to represent absolutely everybody. So we've tried really hard to kind of make sure that comes across, and to work with different people so that everybody at least sees the survey, even if they don't have the time or the inclination to actually take it, to make sure that as many people as possible see it. So it's really important to us that we get the fans from all over to take it.
If this was a school report, we'd be saying it's moving in exactly the right direction, but needs to do more. And
Exactly.
which I think which sounds like any of my school reports ever, but is definitely encouraging that you have that breadth and that scale and that diversity. Breadth, scale, and diversity are all key, and in fact very much in line with your values, I think, as the Cricket Supporters Association. So we've seen some themes. We've seen things like real focus on wanting free-to-air. We've seen a focus on value for money. We've seen a focus on how people consume their cricket online, and a number of other things where clearly the voice is heard and it gets to the right people. So we now, though, have a new survey about to launch, but you want to hear from people, don't you, before you launch that?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the themes you're thinking about? Because I think you want people to tell you if you've got the right ones, and if you think you've missed anything, they've got the chance to tell you what you've missed, right? So give us some ideas of that.
So, yeah, exactly. So thank you. So obviously we spend a lot of time kind of working through what we think should be included in the survey, but also very conscious that the Cricket Sports Association only exists as a fan organisation to represent fans. So it seems that wrong to say this is the survey, you take it. So we're kind of taking it one step before that and saying this is what we're planning to have in the survey. So it's everything from kind of fan intention. So obviously, as we're in the pandemic, as we're coming out of the pandemic, what will that do in terms of kind of people's engagement with cricket? How much they're planning to go to live games, what concerns or what's different from now from before, and kind of stuff like that. We're also looking at county membership, so whether you are a county member and you're going to continue, or you were, and trying to look at that. Obviously free to air and TV rights, but then also taking that one step further and trying to understand how many different kind of channels people would be prepared to pay for if you are in a position to be able to pay for stuff. And because I know there's a lot of chat about free to air is all different TV rights is great, good for the game, but then it also means as a fan you might have to get more and more kind of channels, subscription channels. Ticket prices very much are focused as always, and just to see what the flavour is and what people are thinking. Scheduling, as I say, I think obviously this summer is looking quite tight, and and especially now with when fans might be allowed back in the grounds and how that might work, and so looking at all of that, obviously talking about and just getting people's experiences of that, or what their anticipation about that. And it's County Championship 2022, so what people would like to see with that, because obviously that's still up in the air. And again with that, I've spoken to the ECB, and we're working out a way that what our fans say in this survey will work towards or be part of the kind of discussion as they're planning 2022, and just kind of the role of the fan. And we're also actually looking for we're doing a bit of work with the next test, so looking at sustainability within cricket and fan experiences within ground, etc. So that's kind of a very broad, that's everything that we want to cover. But as I say, we're very aware that there might be something else that we're missing. And when I talk about cricket, we are talking about men and women's cricket as well. But yeah, we're very aware of potentially missing something, or there's, and so we just want fans they can go onto the website, cricketsporters.com, have your say. And then there's a blog that kind of gives a bit more detail, and then underneath is the opportunity for people to comment, or they can email us at info@cricketsporters.com and just let us know if there's something that they definitely think should be in the survey, and we'll try and incorporate as much as we can without making it the longest survey ever that nobody wants to complete by the end, and they're just ticking any old box just to get to the end of it. So that's the idea.
So can you give us those
just to see
again,
what people
those two
want?
Yep, give us again those two ways that people can give you the information, can comment on the content of the survey to you. One was you gave a web address. Shout that out again. I'm going to ask you to do it one more time right at the end as well, but give it now again.
Perfect. So you can go on our website, so cricketsporters.com, have your say, or you can just email us at info@cricketsporters.com.
Perfect. Okay. I think at Guerrilla Cricket, one of the things we would certainly be keen to know, and I think you sort of have it in there, but often it's how the question is asked. One of the things we'd be interested in is how do you preserve the strength of our test playing capability whilst also accommodating new formats, and how do you get reassurance that you're able to do that? So it might be a slightly different phrasing for the question. I don't think it's going, we're not just going stop all new thinking, because that clearly is a negative way to go, but how do you guarantee and preserve the strength of the, let's call it the pinnacle of the game, while still allowing for experimentation and change in other formats that players play? That would be a big one for, I think I would speak for my fellow gorillas on wanting to know the answer to that question. So you'd also mentioned, let's just kind of maybe go back over them. You're looking to increase the number of female and black Middle Eastern Asian respondents, because that's clearly a key voice for you. You're looking at reassurances because of people ask you that for the revenue flow through the game, and ensure that is communicated back to cricket fans. You're continuing to push for greater cost effectiveness, and you're very keen to look at the scheduling balance of the different types of formats and activity to ensure that all cricket fans get the best experience that is going for them. Okay, now, when does the survey launch? So when do you need people to come back to you with their suggestions and ideas?
Ideally, if people can come back to us kind of by the end of I'm going to say by the fourth test, but then that could be 2 days, so let's not say that. So on day 5 of the fourth test, ideally around then. So we're planning to get the survey out in the 3rd week of March, so that just gives us a bit of time. I mean, I work with a fully ratified market researcher, puts together all the surveys and everything for us, and we use our survey tool, so we do need a bit of time to get the survey all together, but we are it go out on the 3rd week of March, and then we'll be pushing it as far and wide as possible. But very much would love everyone or anyone to get in contact and just let us know what they would like to talk about and what they think we all should be discussing, because it's really important. The Cricket Sports Association is only here for cricket fans, to represent fans. So, this is your survey. This is not only your chance to take the survey, but help us kind of shape the survey as well.
How much do you think I mean, we're in an extraordinary set of circumstances at the moment. Clearly, that's one of the things that you talked about, is scheduling in the pandemic, and there's general sense that counties, ECB, everyone actually has done a pretty phenomenal job under an extraordinary set of circumstances in which we're operating. This year, of course, isn't June the 21st, the longest day, is sort of the magic day that people are kind of rather focused on. We hope against all hope that happens. But this year is still exceptional. So would it be fair to say that whilst you're covering that, it's still very much the bigger, longer term picture that is the focus for the growth of the game and the satisfaction of supporters?
I think so. I think that, as you say, I mean, from our restart survey last year, fans weren't expecting that much to happen within cricket, and when we look back and think about the amount that we had and how successful it was, just phenomenal. So, and I think, like you say, this year is going to be difficult. I don't think it's going to please every fan, how it's going to pan out, and all the scheduling, and I want people to say that and to communicate that. But absolutely, we have to think long term. I don't think we're going to have as much as an impact on the scheduling for this summer, maybe, but absolutely kind of looking forward, and how we can see what fans want and how the game can be prosperous. And I think that's why we're asking about fan engagement and stuff like that, because I think as lovers of the game, we have to be aware that things have changed for people, and and whether you still game, but maybe your financial situation or whatever, or you're getting used to not doing cricket or doing something else, or so that's kind of where we want to get all the different fans are feeling towards cricket, but then also what they think about what's going on this summer, and that is really important. And I think we need to tell the stakeholders how fans are feeling about what's the plan for this summer, but then, as we say, look forward as well, and hopefully be able to definitely influence that as we kind of as that kind of is planned as well. So
all right, so give us one more time, give us one more time those 2 ways that people can tell you their point of view about what's going to be covered. There was a email address and there was a web address for comments. Give us those two again.
I will. So it's cricketsporters.com/ have your say. And the email address is info@cricketsporters.com. And I would say, if you are on the Cricket Supporters website, please do sign up whilst you're there. It's completely free. It's no hassle at all, and then you'll be notified as soon as the survey is live.
Perfect. So you've actually got 3 things you can do. Sign up for the Cricket Supporters Association. That's dead straightforward. No pain, loads of gain.
No.
You can ensure that you go to the website, and we'll have the URL of that website on this video version of this discussion, and you can email info@cricketsupportersassociation.com. So, Becky, thank you very much. We're all hugely encouraged by the work that you're doing, and let's hope we get that huge growth in audience, that in respondents, that makes that voice impossible to ignore. Thank you very much.
Exactly. That is exactly it. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Revolutionary cricket commentary.
Welcome back, everybody. We'll be starting the second session very soon. I was just in the middle of getting myself a cup of tea, which will have to wait now, as England must take up the challenge once more of, trying to make India bad again would be a first target, I imagine, Knuckle?
Yeah, very much so. I think there's... I don't think there's a huge amount of demons in the pitch per se. I think England can reasonably expect to bat better and be able to bat better than they did yesterday, and set India something worth chasing.
Yes, indeed. What was the lead, by the way? I'm trying to recall. Just looking at the figures, they ended up. It was over 150, wasn't it?
160 in the end.
160, the lead. Yeah, when you look back to the third test, when they were only 35 runs behind, and only managed to get to 81. As you say, pitch is not doing as much as it was in that game for sure, and we don't have the pink ball, which we believe, or are led to believe, was sliding on much more quickly than the red ball. But I don't know, England won't have been particularly pleased with the way they bowled this morning and the way they fielded, will they? Those wickets came in a rush after a very difficult hour and a half, really.
Yeah, indeed. There's a nice bit of work from Bairstow to run out Akshar from short mid-wicket, desperately, looking for a single to try and get Washington back on strike, which just completely wasn't there, and being nicely run out. And then yes, Ishant and Siraj not able to handle Ben Stokes, who got the wickets he deserved. He was magnificent with the ball. Was Ben Stokes. Disappointing for Washington Sundar, who's been left high and dry twice in this series. But when he looks back on it, he will. I'm sure with that initial disappointment fading, he'll be very, very proud of the work that he did yesterday alongside Rishabh Pant and today alongside Akshar.
Yeah, indeed. He's still only 21, got plenty of time to get that test century. We're joined again by David Brooke. We were waiting for Kat. She hasn't turned up yet. We think she's on her way, although we could send Forfey round in Melbourne to see if she can be awakened. She should be awake in Melbourne, it has to be said, so maybe there's just some sort of logistical problem. But Annie has joined us in the meantime. Annie!
Annie having just woken up.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, I got an email from you saying you were going to bed at 10:30 last night.
Yeah.
And so you've had a nice long sleep. You've had your good 8 hours.
I have, but I'm still, it's still early morning.
I had a good 1 hour and a quarter.
Yeah, but you don't do sleep, do you? You're
Me?
Margaret Thatcher.
Me? I wish I was. I can't do sleep. I like to sleep a lot. No, I would definitely couldn't. No, it's the bear that can get by on about 4 or 5 hours.
No, but that's what I mean. You're not very good at it, are you? Or you?
I'm not very good at. No, I love sleep. I absolutely adore sleep. But normally, what happens is I get so overtired I can't sleep, and that's the